No.
Call the meeting to order of Lincoln City High School District 210. Board of Education regular meeting for April 19, 2018. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fox. Here. Ms. Janice Doyle. Here. Mr. Luchetti.
Here.
Mr. Lulo.
Here.
Mr. Janik.
Here.
Mr. Costick.
Here.
Mr. Kirky.
Here. Thank you. Next agenda item is public comments. We have several listed here. Looks like somebody was trying to switch names. Or
Colleen Malloy.
Yeah,
is mine.
Colleen.
So Colleen, you please take it away. Thank you.
My name is Colleen Malloy. Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay. I've been a Lincoln Way resident for 40 plus years. I've had 5 children go through the Lincoln Way schools. And I wanted to address the school board decision about locking out Lincoln Way residents from use of swimming pools and tracks in the Lincoln Way schools. I was disappointed with the approach taken to implement this policy. It was treated like an emergency situation following the political winds instead of following the normal due process. Since the issue had been tabled at a previous school board meeting, it would have come up for further discussion. Instead, the policy was quickly put into practice before the next board meeting was held. It seemed like it was done to squash the opposition. As a taxpayer who was supportive of the high schools and the many referendums that it entailed, it is very disappointing to now be told we are unable to use the pools and tracks. I do not think the policy was given the weight or discussion it deserved, but put into place because of political opportunity and not necessarily making the schools any safer, but using a rather window dressing approach. Letting residents use the school facilities is a good thing to encourage healthy activities and foster good public relations. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Thank you. Good evening.
Well, we're back, and also with 150 souls that couldn't be here. So they signed the petition that we put together to ask the board to reinstate community use of the high school. So I'd like to present that to you and say, last month, we asked you to discuss it, and we realized there wasn't any discussion. So when do you plan to discuss it?
It actually is an action item in tonight's meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So the policy will be up for approval or amendment or whatever. So tonight there'll probably be a lot more discussion about it.
Oh, there will be
Last
discussion.
meeting was the first read. This will be the meeting that we're looking to take action.
Okay. Will we be able to comment?
No.
No.
This is your time to comment.
Oh, so we will have no input as to what to work with this? We're willing to make a compromise? There's got to be some kind of common ground we can find. We don't need all the schools. I mean, 2 schools, 1 school, keep 1 school open. Doesn't have to be every day of the week, 3 days a week. We're willing to work with you. We'd love to have input on that. Answer any questions that you have. I'm glad to see you're going to discuss it. Under what? I have the agenda. Under what item will it be discussed?
Be policies, second reading. And just to clarify, there never was a board policy for public use during the school day. That was an administrative practice. It was a practice. It was never board policy. It was never voted on by the board that the citizens would be allowed to use facilities during the day. There is a policy that states community groups may use the facilities outside of the school day. We have not locked out the public. We still have opportunities to use our facilities before and after school. And so that's something that we can continue to work through and discuss. But there will be discussion amongst the board this evening, and the board would certainly have the opportunity to develop or discuss a policy. But as far as a board policy for community use, there has never been a board policy to state there would be public use of facilities during the school day. And so that's something that we've adjusted and changed. I want you to
So
know
it's
that
something you changed
the,
by
not the
locking
policy,
up-
not the policy. We changed the practice. But I also want you to know, this was not done on a whim. This has been discussed since I've become superintendent
Yep.
amongst administration and board members. Building administration has been very, very forthcoming in their belief that the building should be restricted during the school day. Not only from a safety and security standpoint, but also safety and security of our citizens in terms of walking during the tracks as we have PE going on and a number of other items. But I don't want it to seem like this was a knee-jerk reaction. It wasn't. It's something that's been vetted, discussed for years, but there certainly will be a discussion this evening amongst the board.
4 years, for the last 3 years, since you've taken office. We know
This
you've
is
been
my-
trying,
this is my
we know you've been
yeah.
trying to cut back, that you don't like us in.
Has nothing to do with life. It's what's appropriate and also what's safe.
Well, the promise was made to the community to use this. I don't care if it's a line item, board item, policy, or whatever. Everyone here knows that was why we gave you the tax money to build these and to improve that track. You weren't superintendent then, so we were made promises, and this is a really good thing. You have a great opportunity to work with the community. To sell this, and quite honestly, if you come back and really want true security, to call this security is ridiculous. And when you decide what is appropriate security for the school, be it metal detectors, more guards, whatever it is, and then you want the community to help you with that, I wouldn't do it. And I bet 150 people won't vote for that if you want money for metal detectors. But if I am using this school, if I'm part of this school, if I'm here every day, you bet I want a metal detector. I'll support that. I'll help you. I want to keep myself safe. But, no. It's a lot like, another example, the fire station on Cedar Road. That's closed because they couldn't get a tax referendum. They couldn't get the community behind them last month. You have an opportunity here to work with the community and keep the pool open. It's important. So when will it be discussed?
17?
Action item is number 17.
Number 17?
Yeah.
And we can't have any input. We just have to listen.
Thank you, Tim.
Good job, Tim.
Thank you, Sue. So great.
Did you say Susan Fabric? I can
Do
hear
I
you.
have F-A-B-R-I-S? Did I say the phone was on?
Good evening. I'm back again as well to discuss the issue with the pools and the track. Thank you for the opportunity once again. I'm asking Superintendent Tingley to reconsider his decision to ban public access to the schools, or at least to put the issue up for a board vote. You, the board, are representatives of the citizens of the district. As elected officials, you have a responsibility to the voters. When the referendum was submitted, one of the promises to the citizens was open and free access to the school facilities. Based on that promise, the referendum was passed. Just because some of you may not have been a board member at that time, you are still obligated to uphold the spirit of that agreement. Yes, the public has access at night. Unfortunately, those hours are not an option for most of us. We're wives, mothers, grandmothers with families to feed, children to bathe, and tuck in at night. When this was first offered, the facilities were available to senior citizens free of charge. A couple years ago, they started charging the seniors for the use of the pool and the fitness center. That alone goes against the spirit of this referendum. It seems like little by little, things that were promised are slowly being taken away. There have been no incidents involving the seniors that I'm aware of. Let me know if I'm wrong. Unfortunately, New Lenox does not have a park district gym like some of our neighboring communities. We have to use our schools. We have no other facilities. I understand the thought is to install a security card swiping system this summer. The walkers or swimmers could be given a card with limited access times and limited access doors to the doors. The security threat is not your senior citizens who are health conscious. You are confusing the issues. We are just as concerned about security as you are. Superintendent Tingley, you have told certain members of this group that you didn't like this program from the start. The program that was promised when the referendum was submitted and passed. I asked the board, have we not learned our lesson about letting a superintendent run his own agenda? He works for the board, and the board is elected by the community. I asked my fellow walkers and swimmers to stand up, and I asked you to take a look at them and answer this question. Do they really look like a security threat to you? Do the right thing.
Holly Williams.
Hello. My name's Holly Williams, and I am admittedly standing here as a proud band mom, so I know I'm a little biased. And I'm told that not many people show up to these meetings to offer thanks or support, and that's exactly why I'm here tonight. I want to thank you for your support of the Lincoln Way Marching Band and the opportunities that my kids have been able to get from being in that program. I have 3 daughters who've been in the program. I have a sophomore in college, a senior at East this year, and I have a freshman. And when I think about their high school career, I know that they wouldn't be on the track that they are without the leadership training and development that they've received from the excellent teachers. I mean, they spend hours upon hours with these directors and teachers, and it has made a profound impact in their lives, and I'm so grateful for it. And I just see how they have absolutely thrived and flourished from being in the program, so I'm so thankful for it. I have nephews that graduated from Neuqua Valley High School. I have friends at Libertyville High School, Stevenson High School. We used to live up on that side of Chicagoland, and they don't have the same opportunities we do. They don't have very good marching bands. I mean, they have some kind of, a program, but it is nothing in comparison to what we have here. And so I kind of understand why, because it takes so much time and commitment and effort. And sometimes I personally wonder why our directors would be crazy enough to invest the amount of time that they do, because I know they're not making millions of dollars for doing it. So, but to run a program with the scope and caliber that we have, it just takes a tremendous amount of dedication. And I personally felt compelled to go on the record to thank you as a board and to thank our directors for all that they're doing for us, because they are really unsung heroes. And I just felt compelled to put that out there in the public forum. I thank them for what they have poured into all the kids that they have encountered, and to my kids personally, because I know they are who they are today in large part because of the influence that they've had in their lives. And this is a very exciting year. It's going to be culminating in our marching band representing the district in the 2019 Tournament of Roses Parade. And this is an opportunity to showcase all the great things that are happening in our district. And I can't help but think that the Lincoln Way Marching Band was one of the best things that happened to our district a couple years ago. And there's a bunch of parents here, and we are all standing here in support to just say thank you for these opportunities. We really appreciate it.
Next, I have
I was here last month to talk about students' civil rights. And this month I'm here to talk about something completely different. I come here as a proud member of the Lincoln Way Marching Band. I have been in the marching band program for the past 3 years, and it's truly been an enlightening experience. From the first day I joined, it really gave me a sense of community, and I got to know a lot of people of all ages before I even entered the district, which was really helpful to get me used to such a big change before the first day in August. And it's a big program. Since we combined our separate programs to create one district-wide program, it's only gotten bigger. We've gotten wider recognition, and I'm very happy with that. But with the bigger program, that requires funds. We need to raise over $500,000 this year to support our band and to be able to go to our local regional events and be able to attend the Rose Bowl parade, which is a big deal, and it's been a long time since our district has had that pleasure. $500,000 is a lot of money coming from a person who has no money. It's just not possible to, raise that much money without a wide variety of fundraisers. Currently, we have candy bar fundraiser going on now. We're going to for the White Sox game, we're going to have a concert event that's called California Dreamin', and these are all ways that we are just desperately trying to be able to fund our program so that we don't have to push as much of the heavy financial burden on students. I know that our district, though, has a small number of them. We have homeless students, and we have a lot of students who struggle financially and who can't afford, large trips such as this. And I, for one, if we cannot have our fundraisers, I know many people who will either be financially strapped by this event or will just have to quit the program because they won't be able to afford it. I understand that one of the issues raised about our concert fundraiser by parents of students who have previously attended schools in our district is that there will be alcohol served at that event. I understand why that might raise concerns for people, but I personally don't see the issue. Like any other place, people will be checking IDs. It's not a school-sponsored event. So I don't understand why, the school should have to back away from, a substance that's legal for the majority of people in this country. This is not the prohibition, if I can recall. And it's just going to be impossible for our, 300 band families to raise this much money, especially when, I know so many people have their whole family volunteers and goes to these trips, which can add up. I know families who will have to pay over $7,000 this year just to go on this trip. And if we have our fundraising events and they continue to be as successful as they have been, you know, that number can go significantly down for all of us. But if we just sit there and say no to every possibility that crosses by, we, you know, will not be able to continue such a great program that has impacted so many people. I thank all of you for sponsoring our event and for helping us really become the band that we are today. I think it's wonderful what you've all done for us, and I know that nobody comes to any public meeting to say thanks. And like I know last month I didn't have a lot of thanks to give.
Calvin, get about 10 more seconds.
Okay. And I just hope that you consider allowing us to continue these fundraising events. Also, I would just like to say this as the entire student body. I am for, you know, the security measures which you are taking, but no metal detectors, please.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Hanson. I'm also with the marching band, and I'm a junior currently at 18+ East. And I know you don't get a lot of kids to speak at these meetings, but I just wanted to tell you guys how much we are thankful for your support with the marching band, because it's such a big program and it means so much to a lot of us. And the support with the fundraisers is a huge thing. Like the candy bar sales alone, I've paid for most of my fees with it, and we haven't had to drop a dime yet on my Rose Bowl fees because of these fundraisers. And not only does it help me, it helps over like 300 people in our community, and I think that's a big thing, and I really appreciate the support that you guys are giving us. And I feel there's some people that express concerns, like, don't speak for most of us. I feel that the majority is silent, but we definitely appreciate the support you guys are giving us, and it means a lot. And I hope that you consider continuing our fundraisers, because it's very helpful to get us to our end goal of going to the Rose Bowl, and I feel like the community is excited and will appreciate the support. Thank you.
Finally, the Jim Fabio.
Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't know what I was going to say, and I did the same thing I do at work. I sit and listen to people, and I take notes, and I make some comments, right? So, and I won't be as eloquent as the ladies who talked about with the passion for walking, but I'm kind of on this side here. I work, so I'm interested, but non-user of the facility, but I'm just kind of throwing some thoughts out here. One, it seems like it's odd to be against it without listening to some of the things that are said. So when you're having this conversation among yourselves, and it is you guys vote, right? You need to probably hopefully take into account what these people are saying in terms of, is it really, what are you trying to accomplish, and what is the benefit to doing one way or the other? You'll have to decide that. I thought the interesting thing about the petition stuff is that, you know, I was here last time, and there were a handful of people, and it was a nice conversation. They got their word out. And then they started, now, the next time, there's 100 people who signed the petition. So you had, just for what it's worth, you had a handful of people who even knew about this and were using the facility. And now you've got 100 people who know about it, and you don't know what the next step is, right? So, and I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but, you know, it doesn't go your way, maybe you want a referendum on, you know, a vote. And if I were you guys, I would enlist all these kids because they're passionate about stuff and they'll work for you. So that's an idea. I heard swipe cards, and I work for a big company, and I have security is one of the departments that I deal with. Swipe cards are great for letting people know what goes in and out, right? They're costly, they break, so, you know, if you decide to do that, that's good, but think about, you know, your O&M to, you know, to fix them as well, depending on what you do, and then how many you're gonna actually have to give people, because if you're giving one to every student, that's gonna cost you money. Again, 67-year-old lady using the facilities, it doesn't seem to me like keeping a 60-year-old lady out of your facilities really decreases the risk in the morning, whether it's the morning or night. It's really, you're just keeping a 60-year-old lady out of your building. If that's what you want to do, that's okay, but that's all you're doing. I don't see these people stopping. So I'll leave it with that. I think you know, you'll vote, and maybe you'll vote, and some people will be more adamant about it than others. But I'm not sure where. You know, I'm not sure a vote that says, okay, you can't do it. That's too bad, and that's what it's going to be. I'm not sure that that's going to be the end of it from what you hear. So, from my perspective, it looks like it's really kind of a handful of people that you're impacting. So really, you have to decide if that's the greater good. That's it for me.
Thank you.
That's all I have listed for public comments at this time. No one else? Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is our student council president. And we'll begin with Michelle.
Hi. So the last time we met, Lincoln Way Central, since the last time we met, Lincoln Way Central has been busier than it has ever been. The preparations for the end of the year well underway. Our stage crew and our play cast members have been working tirelessly for their debut of Shrek, which will be going live the first week of May. Our Future Business Leaders of America members competed last week and secured their spot at Nationals, which will be held on June 28th in Baltimore, Maryland. Individual performances from Fazio and Stabaz in the social media campaign left them on top as they placed first in the entire competition. And adding the two of them were two freshmen who placed fourth in their creative public service announcement. A few weeks ago, our ROTC team competed at Nationals and finished within the top 30, where they competed against drill teams from all over the United States. Last night, we hosted the annual Seal of Biliteracy ceremony, where we congratulated the seniors on their accomplishments in Spanish, English, French, German, and also Mandarin. 18 of our student athletes here at Central will be signing to play their specific sport at the collegiate level on May 2nd. And we are all extremely proud of how hard these athletes have worked to be the best that they can be, and we look forward to seeing and hearing what they are going to accomplish at the next level. And as for the student council side of things, we are gearing up for our annual Teachers of the Night dinner, which will be held this coming Wednesday. At this dinner, the junior and senior members of student council choose one teacher they want to recognize and honor for the night. And I worked this event last year with a fellow member of the student council, and I can't wait to participate in it this year. And finally, preparations for Teacher Appreciation Week during the week of May are also underway. And our student council has some pretty good ideas up their sleeves, if you ask me, to show our teachers just how much they mean to the entire student body. Thank you. Thank you. So since we last met, Wes has also been gearing up for the end of the year. On the athletics front, we recently had our girls badminton senior night on Tuesday, where we honored 6 seniors who we are all extremely proud of, as well as all of our athletes at the time. Girls soccer had their 9th annual Kick for a Cure match against HF at LW East Tuesday night, in which proceeds go towards research for cancer and juvenile diabetes. There were also t-shirt sales all over school, and the entire school is really rooting for them to work towards this cause. Boys volleyball today is playing against Sandburg at the Comcast Game of the Week, where Comcast themselves will be broadcasting the game and interviewing players. Around the school last night, we also honored students at the Seal by Literacy Award at Central for German, French, and Mandarin. Our spring art show has been going on this week in the library, where several dozen students have been proudly displaying their work for other students to come and visit. AP exams are coming up, and we have review sessions going on. But more importantly, prom is next Saturday at the Belvedere Chateau, and our theme this year is Red Carpet Affair, A Night in Hollywood, with social following May 12th at the theme of Social Royale. And finally, our theater department is very proud to have produced their production of Fiddler on the Roof last weekend, where we had over 2,000 patrons attend in the 3 days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so with 28 days of school left, business has not slowed down at
How many?
28.
Tim, did you get that?
Last night, Lincoln East hosted its first ever Road to Reality, so members of SAD Club, ROTC, local law enforcement, and several students from our theater productions, as well as other student volunteers, gave over 250 students and parents a realistic look at the dangers of driving under the influence. Much work went into this production, and many walked away from this powerful presentation with a heightened awareness of some of the dangers facing our students. That being said, this weekend is Lincoln East prom. This week, voting was held for Prom King and Queen. Prom is being held at the Tinley Park Convention Center, and the theme is Night Along the Shore. Over 800 students are set to attend a beautiful night of dinner and dancing. Last week, Lincoln Way East Student Council held elections for representatives for the 2018-19 school year. 15 representatives from each class were elected for next year, as voted on by the student body. Yesterday, we met as a new student council and accepted nominations for next year's president and exec board. So speeches and voting will take place next Wednesday after school, and then the president and exec board will be named. In the coming weeks, this year's exec board will host our annual framing dinner, in which we honor our favorite Lincoln Way East teachers with a dinner and a speech. It was one of my favorite memories of junior year, so I can't wait to be at this year's. Last night, top foreign language students from across the district gathered at Lincoln Way Central to receive their Illinois Seal by Literacy Awards. Spanish, French, Mandarin, German, and English language learners had the opportunity to earn the Seal by Literacy by scoring high on their STAM test taken earlier this year. It was a great honor to be at the event and see my classmates utilize their foreign language skills to thank our teachers who helped us achieve this award through their dedication to student success. Lincoln Way East Girls Soccer held the district's annual Kick for a Cure on Tuesday night. All three Lincoln Way schools, as well as HF High School, gathered and participated in the benefit for type 1 diabetes and breast cancer. This was another successful event that helped raise awareness and brought our future Griffins out to support the worthy cause. Our boys volleyball team just won the Warren Township Invitational and is currently ranked second in the state. And our girls water polo team took first in 2 invitationals in a row. With these being some of my final days at Lincoln Way East, I'm so happy to be finishing high school strong with my classmates and watching my peers make memories while making my own.
Next on the agenda is Bill Riley.
A great session and presentation for you tonight. Everything on curriculum is in the folders, and just wanted to point out quickly that we received this just today from the pediatric oncology treasure chest that we support, where we give the toys to the kids, and it was great recognition. Once again, top givers in the country, and they wanted to make sure that each of you had a little certificate of appreciation, so it was very nice. Several of the student council presidents mentioned the Seal by Literacy, and that doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen easily, and it certainly doesn't happen everywhere. We were the first school in the state to pilot it and get it out, and it really is 38 unbelievable language teachers, and then a few more in junior high that get it done. So I'd like to introduce you tonight to Peg Bobber, who's been our department chair since, I'm not going to say when. And the three people that are going to be replacing her, one at each building next year: Carol Book, Laura Racina, and Amy Ficcarello.
Good evening. We're going to just talk about a few of the hot topics in the World Languages Department. We're going to start first. Carol's going to address a little bit about our AP program, just to tell you what's up there.
Thank you so much for having us, and this is my first board meeting that I get to speak. We, as you have heard through the kids and also here, we have the 4 languages, Spanish, German, French, and Mandarin Chinese. All feeder schools have Spanish, and we are going to continue to encourage to maybe have open mind to other languages as well. As you could see, there has been an increased number of students taking the AP exams, and I feel like this is due to the efforts of our department to change our curriculum into a proficiency-based curriculum so that I have seen, as well as my peers, my colleagues, that the kids have gained in confidence. And with that, they are getting college credits through these AP exams. And with that, which is very exciting, they can fit a minor or a major into their college career. And it's been very exciting to hear what they are doing even after college.
Hi, my name is Amy Ficarello, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the seal by literacy. And I think we're all kind of on a high from the ceremony last night because there were quite a lot of kids in attendance, and it's really amazing to see what they can do with another language. The purpose of the seal is to promote and celebrate the learning of another language. And the kids have to be able to show what they can do in English and in a foreign language, or in their native language and in English. And they have to do this by passing a test that ISCE, the state of Illinois, has agreed would earn them the seal of literacy. So you can see here at Lincoln Way, since we started it in 2015, our numbers have grown tremendously. And I know in my class alone, it's like doubled. So it's pretty exciting. And it's going to open up a whole world of opportunities for them. And just to see how the kids grow in 4 years, I think we're all amazed and proud of their accomplishments and hard work.
And one last detail on that SEAL award from the state of Illinois. We were the first of 3 schools to pilot, and then maybe 10 or 12 schools came on board the following year. And right now we're up to 75 schools in Illinois that are giving that award, and it's all the heavy hitter schools. And we were one of the first, so we're really proud of that. And the seal is actually that. It's an actual seal that's affixed to the diploma for the students. It goes on their transcript, their official transcript, and it also goes down to the state database. So that is a record that they have earned this level of proficiency. So it's really, it's gaining popularity, and we were really thrilled to be in on it at the ground level. So last night, just to give you the quick peek there, we just about, it wasn't full, but it was pretty darn full. We planned for about 300 attendees, and thanks to Mr. Riley, who was sprinting down to the copy machine to make more programs. We were close to 400, maybe 450.
Easily, and it wasn't really sprinting.
I was writing it down.
Well, it looked fast. So, yes, and the students remarked about shaking Dr. Tingley's hand, so we do thank you for being there to congratulate them. And Ron also, it meant a lot to students. It was like, wow, lots of people here. So it was a lovely evening. And we did one new touch this year, which went over really well, and we've got some great feedback even today. And we offered an award to each of our feeder school students. So we had 13 students who earned, we called it the Outstanding Language Learner, and it was awarded to right now we just have Spanish in our feeder schools, and also to the English language learners. So we had some students who are in the EL program in the district, and I'm going to guess this is one of the first awards that they received, and we had families and grandmas and grandpas, and it was just really, really a wonderful evening to celebrate language literacy. And this is really taking our students and separating them from other students as far as not just in the university, but in being able to get summer internships. There's any number of examples we could relate back to you about students who were favored over an internship
And they're also getting into exchange programs earlier, because usually you have to wait till junior or senior year when you have enough language proficiency that the university could drop you off in Madrid. Well, our students are going there, and they're pretty close. So they're going second semester freshman year or even sophomore year on these exchange programs, which is, it's just a huge advantage for them. So we as always thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Racina, and I'm going to be the department chair at Central next year. And I'm going to talk about what Peg was just referring to, but basically how the department has affected students as they continue on after they graduate from Lincoln Way. So as Peg mentioned, many of our students are entering the university level with many college credits, some up to 12 credit hours because of the AP credit that they've earned in whatever language that may be. All 4 of our languages do offer the AP test. Students are placing into very high levels. The 300 level course is typically a junior course at the university level. So instead of taking the freshman level Spanish at the university, they're able to place into the junior level. Again, the study abroad, many of our students, I know all of us have heard from former students who email us, and I'm in Madrid. One of my students who's graduating from the university this May, he just told me that he's going to be teaching for a whole year next year in Madrid. So I was so proud of him. And it all started here at Lincoln Way. And again, the students are majoring or minoring in the language. And many students do have qualifications over others because of an internship. We do have at least a few, I think about 7 or 8 students who are going into the medical profession, and especially having the language background with Spanish, they've received an internship because of that.
And lastly, we just want to thank you for the many trips that you've gotten behind for us in the last 2 years. We've been to China, Costa Rica, Germany, France, Spain, and Peru with varying sizes of students. And that really is a life-changing experience for a lot of our students. All of the trips that we propose or take Lincoln Way students on are have an educational base. We aren't really doing exchanges with families. We're actually doing a structured educational tour that sets up for students to be immersed in the language. So we thank you for that.
Okay, and the last piece, and not anything we'll really look at tonight, but in your packets there's a little packet with 4 or 5 pages. It's actually a report from someone who had done an internship with our Mandarin teacher. Absolutely hilarious because you have 3 pages that are in Mandarin Chinese, and then when you run it through a translator, you get things like the blonde beauty Chinese teacher has always been. It's absolutely delightful, but when you read through there, it's just great teaching, and that's why this department has taken off. Peg, I mean, how long was it where we had fewer than 10 language teachers in the district, and really it's soared. Over the last 5 or 6 years, I think it's taken off because of the changes you made, and we don't let Peg Barbara get out of here. There are a handful of people that are just our Lincoln Way legends, and she's one. And so if you'll come on up and shake the hands of the board and allow us to say thank you.
Tim, I want to echo everything you said, and to see, I was with the first one, we launched it in 2013, and to see the number of students achieving this is more than quadruple. It's just so exciting, and I couldn't be any happier and prouder, and you've all done such a wonderful job. Thank you for doing what you're doing for our kids. Thank you.
And I'll play the proud parent before you go. I have a kid that went to college, took French, I don't know where he got it from, got into the 300 level, decided that he was going to double major in French and Japanese. And I was like, okay, that's really fascinating. How are we going to do this? And now he is extremely gainfully employed in the private sector because he can speak English, French, and Japanese. So that started with your group, so thank you very much, and I appreciate all your efforts.
I will share those sentiments. I had his son last night get the seal of biliteracy, and just like you said, he's starting we went to the college visit, and he's going to be starting in a 300 level linguistics class. He only has to take 4 classes to get his minor, so it's been a great program. And it was a great program last night. That was great to see all the students up there giving the speeches in the language they've learned. It was pretty interesting. I had a good Spanish teacher too. I won't go any further than that.
Last year?
Yeah. Came back from night school.
All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, moving on in our agenda, next is the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of the approval of the regular minutes of the March 15, 2018 meeting, approval of the closed meeting minutes of the March 15, 2018 meeting, approval of the District 210 advisory minutes from March 12, 2018, and approval of the payrolls from March 20, 2018 and March 5, 2018, as well as requests for out-of-state travel. Does any member wish any of these items to be pulled and discussed separately? If not, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. So moved. There's a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none?
The vote is open. Oh, I'm sorry. Now the vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. On our action items, first action item is the presentation of invoices for March 2018.
Motion to approve the invoices in the amount of $1,421,297.55 dated April 19, 2018.
There's a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the invoices?
I just had one quick question about the AQI mechanical HVAC work. Just explain what that was.
Yes. There was a $10,000 bill, and that was for a boiler that was running. We needed to get underneath the central building in a crawl space to check all of the connections to be sure that there wasn't a leak. So that caused that bill to be larger than it actually is. That was during the transition period. We were down to 1 building supervisor, 2 gentlemen on break, and we needed it done in a timely fashion, so that was the charge. I know Rich can probably answer that better if there needs some more clarification.
There won't be anything really going forward with this, then?
No.
It's taken care of,
It's
a
taken care
one-time
of.
thing?
Yes, a one-time issue, correct.
Good question.
Rich, anything to add? Nope. No.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Next action item is the Treasurer's Report for March 2018. I entertain a motion to accept the Treasurer's Report as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Discussion. Mr. Brad.
Yes, all the reports are there in your packets. This is, we're approaching our May 18th will be our absolutely low cash point. So we're approaching that, so cash flow is becoming very critical. We received 1.8 million in revenue, expended out 7.2 million, bringing us to a negative fund balance of 9.4 million. We have 17.3 million of outstanding tax anticipation warrants. I'd answer any questions about the reports.
Brad, this monthly report shows revenues were behind what you projected and expenses were ahead, both would be a negative variance. Do you expect that to continue, or is that just an anomaly?
Well, first, let me clarify. All right, so what you're referring to is my cash flow projections. So, stop in bigger picture, we are trending ahead on our revenue year-to-date and behind year-to-date on expenditures. So, year-to-date, we're trending in the right direction on both of those. Now, as far as your question, that was my estimation of where I believed we were going to be each on the monthly basis. So yes, I was off on a monthly basis. 145,000 less than I thought we were going to get on the revenue side. Here again, these are my best guess as we get another year under my belt. Hopefully they'll get a little tighter on them, but it really just affects where I projected our TAW draws may be. So obviously update the report and up with the actuals every month.
So my real, then this isn't systemic?
No, no.
Another quick question. How are we on our state payments? In the news, they talked about the controllers release funds, the formulas in place. Where are we at that whole process?
Right, great question. So, the new evidence-based funding model took 4 of the old payments, general state aid, special ed, the TPI, rolled it all together, which was a good thing for us. And now that is being paid on a bi-monthly basis and is current. So we're getting 2 payments a month, and that's very good. Now, we still have the old MCATs out there for such things as special ed, placement, tuition reimbursement, transportation, those. Well, we've received all the payments for last fiscal year, so they still owe us 2, so we got those, and we've gotten 1 more for this year, so they still owe us 3 for fiscal year 18. We're being told we'll get another one before the end of the year and be right back. So we'll have 4 total payments in this fiscal year, but still 2 payments outstanding as of the end of the year.
What's that amount?
It's about 900,000.
Just shy of $1 million.
Yes, right, per categorical.
What's the additional amount of so the additional amount of TAWs you're projecting that we're going to need to borrow 4.7 plus the 2 million, and that should get
Right. So we're projecting at this point, if revenue continues and expenditures as I, forecasting them, we should hit right at 24 million by the end of the fiscal year in draws. Now, of course, we'll start making payments. Our outstanding balance should be down to about 9.5 million outstanding by the end of the fiscal year, because we will get our 3 tax payments prior to the end of the fiscal year.
So revenue and expenditures are in line with what we were projecting. We're getting, an additional $2 million in that?
Yes, let me grab that report. So included in your packet is our latest estimate. As you know, you saw in the papers, ISBE did finish the calculation for the evidence-based funding model, which is about going to gain the district $504,000 of additional dollars. As of right now, counting, getting 1 more, and I want to emphasize that, 1 more categorical payment, so if the state does come through, we should get about 2.1 million more than we had budgeted.
So that would bring our operating surplus to over 5 million.
That's, yes, operating, yes.
Any other questions? None, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please. Vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Next, our student activities report. I'll entertain a motion to accept the student activities report for March of 2018 is presented in the package.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
In the, yeah, go ahead. Okay, in the backup materials, there are 4 accounts that are in the negative that will be cleared up here in the near future. And then we are requesting a new account. We're asking for board approval for the following activity account. See the long number, but essentially it's a Rose Bowl concert fundraiser. The account will be used to manage the revenues and expenditures for the Lincoln Marching Band concert in the Commons on June 16th, 2018. Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, but about 70,000, is that the number we're looking for?
Yeah, 60, I thought.
67.
70?
67. Okay. Will be moved into that account. That account comes out of the student activity account, and that money then will be utilized for any payments, and then also the expenditure, or the revenues collected will go into that account. Then it will be closed at the conclusion of the concert, once all bills are paid, all revenues received, and then that money will be transferred back into their said activity accounts.
Can I remind? Go ahead, Chris.
So the funds, so there's the district performance band, is that where the money is going?
Correct, district performance band, and then there is also a Rose Bowl fund account as well.
So this will be a separate account?
For that event only.
Yes.
For this event only, correct.
I want to make this suggestion because I think these are a little bit out of order.
Right.
Right.
That we have a item number 5 with an intergovernmental agreement. And I think it addresses this account. And I think one man's opinion, it'd be a little premature to approve the account at this point without having the discussion with the intergovernmental agreement.
The thought a little bit behind it was that the account, the money has not been moved. We would ask to create the account so that if and when this were approved, that would become an account. If it's not approved, we would just eliminate this account and bring it back. I mean, chicken, egg, I mean, either one.
I retract my slide.
I wanted to have it, we wanted to have this in place.
In the right spot.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to accept the report as presented. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote, please.
No, just so.
The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. The next action item is an interfund loan resolution. Entertain a motion to accept the resolution as presented in your packet.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the resolution? Want to just give us
Yep, this is just the second half. We don't expect to need to do another one, but last month we needed to do $1 million. So we would need $500,000 to keep the O&M fund from going negative, and this would be the other part of that.
So you're transferring funds from?
O&M, or from ed to O&M, and that's just because, in prior years, we've taken the TAW in the O&M fund. This year, all of our TAWs are in the ed fund, and so in this case, we need transfer. As soon as taxes are received, we'll pay those back.
And when will that happen? When will we receive the taxes?
May 17th, I think is our first, or
It's like a
something like that.
30-day loan?
Yeah. And we're charging interest, no.
Don't we have to pay, we're probably not going to be able to pay those back.
We'll probably wait and pay them in June.
But it'll be cleared up this fiscal.
But we'll pay them before the fiscal year closes, right? We don't want them to be outstanding when we close the books.
Paper and the transfer between formal paper. Good question. Anything else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
Vote is open.
The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Next action item is an intergovernmental agreement with the Village of New Lenox. Discuss this before we ask for a motion.
There are a number of items provided in your backup materials regarding potential concert, whose proceeds would go to help the marching band for the fall season and also the trip to California. Brad has put in quite a bit of work, working with the insurance. Some of this was kind of maybe done in backwards order, but we're confident where we are at this point in terms of no taxpayer money. Also, in all of our meetings and discussions with our insurance agent, Mesro, that we're in a good place. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I did see the band director sneak into the back, so I'll put those guys on the spot and ask them to answer any questions that you may have as well. But feel free to discuss.
If we could Bert come to the mic.
Sure. Bert and Justin, come on up, guys.
And bring Kerry with you too, because he's really talking. We're just asking you to be at the mic, just in case we have a question that might be directed to you. And I'm going to jump on this first, just because I got full disclosure. I mean, Carrie, you know, a 10-year band parent, played the active role in the whole thing. So I applaud you for wholeheartedly tackling this head-on and taking the bold step to raise this kind of money. Because when we first heard Rose Bowl, we were like, okay, missed it by a couple of years. But then we said, yay, go, go. And then we were like, wow, that's a big nut to cover. And then through living in the community, people that were associated with the Village of New Lenox came up to me and said, hey, you know, here you guys are going to put on a concert. And I was like, oh, we are? And so that's where we just got to make sure that we get this set from a business perspective, because as we heard from some of our eloquent speakers today, this is a community organization. It's a community asset. It's ours. So we just want to make sure that, yes, we want to support you in raising those funds, because you have a couple of the students come up and talk about the financial burden to have a memory of a lifetime. But we also have to make sure that it doesn't become a problem that we don't see the unintended consequences. So that'll be part of the discussion tonight. So I just kind of want to get that out there. So Chris, I know you have a couple of questions.
Well, I mean, my initial thought on this is I think we just have to make sure that the estimated costs of this are covered and that we're not using the district's balance sheet to, backstop this in any way, because I think any other organization could then want to do the same. So I think, that's why we need the separate account, and I think the money needs to be in that account, and where we have control of the disbursement function, and then once all the bills are paid, the money can go out of that account. I mean, I think this is a pretty good list of all the projected costs and everything. So I think if $70,000 is in that account, and also I would want the ticket proceeds as they come in deposited to that account.
Correct. Are the students being required to sell a certain amount of tickets for this fundraiser? I know there's about 300 students that are on this trip. As part of this, have you guys set out goals? Okay, each student needs to sell 10 tickets for this, or is there any kind of accountability for the students with this?
Yeah, there's not going to be a formal, like every student must sell 10 tickets or you're not allowed to travel. There's not going to be a formal accountability on that end. But there's definitely going to be a push for every student to try to sell for us. They're our biggest assets in selling tickets for us. People want to support them and their family and their friends and community members. So we're absolutely going to be imparting upon our students and our families to try to put that. We set the number at 10, about 300 students, 10 tickets per student. We sell 3,000 tickets. We're past our expenses. I mean, we're into the making money portion of it. So, but there will not be a formal guideline where you're not allowed to participate in the band or travel with us if you don't sell 10.
If this went off famously, what is your estimated benefit to your trip off of this type of event?
$1 million.
I mean, conservatively, we think 100,000, maybe 120,000 could be the profit margin if it went off like you just described.
Okay, great.
Then the money's going to be divided among the 300 or so that do go, or how's that going to be divvied up? Or?
Yeah, so they're, out of all the kids that are going on the trip, there's about 240 that are in that competitive season where there's the extra expense. So those kids will benefit from that first to take away the season expenses. And then once we get past that, we have some travel things to cover, and then it'll go to the bottom line of the actual trip expense.
We're getting a liquor liability insurance coverage.
That's my biggest.
Have we ever done that in the past?
Okay, so I would like to address that. We have two options on the table. The first option, well, first one is mandatory. We're already doing it. So New Lenox is listing us as an additional insured under their liquor liability. Now, I myself, I think that covers us. Now, our insurance carrier did offer and bring up that we could purchase an additional coverage on top of that. I don't recall, it's about $1,000 some, but if the board felt that would be necessary, we could purchase an additional. At this time, we've not budgeted that in there. We felt like having the coverage from the village of New Lenox would be enough, but that's...
If I'm reading this, it's $1 million coverage for liquor liability per incident. My biggest concern with this whole event is the risk of the insurance risk. And if it's $1,000 to get, I've seen events at large events and venues where it's 2 or to 5 million. So I don't think $1 million is enough. I would encourage us for the month for $1,000 to look at expanding that. That's the biggest thing for me. This is a real, the district's on the line. Potentially, we're under New Lenox's liquor, we're additional insured, that's great, but I don't think $1 million's enough.
I would have a tendency to agree with you, Chris, because, realistically, that's about 3 hours of an attorney's fee, so, in the grand scheme of things, you're right. Yet, though, New Lenox has been doing triple play and been doing these concerts similar to this for years, so, I think we need to look at their history to see what is covered. It is statistical, you are playing the odds, nobody really wants to gamble, especially when it's taxpayer money, and we're accountable for that. But if they've been doing this for years, I think we talked to Mayor Baldwin and their team and their group and see what triple play has done over the last 10, 12 seasons. Again, we don't have to follow that, but it's just something to look at.
And Dr. Tingley, correct me if I'm wrong, but you and Brad, you said you've had extensive discussions with Mesero. Correct. Who are, people we go to are experts, but still, the more coverage, in my opinion, the better.
What was that? Sorry. What was the quote you just gave from Mesero?
I believe it was like $800. I can go back.
How much coverage?
For another $1 million.
I would go for maybe double down on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was one of the discussions we had with them last week, looking at. So as long as we're talking about insurance, our current carrier has reviewed all of our coverages and has determined that this event lies outside of our current package. So we've made applications and we'll be getting an additional blanket of liability insurance just to cover this event. And that's been factored in there. And during those discussions, that's where it came up that we maybe want to consider additional liquor liability coverage.
And just to clarify that additional coverage is the event expense, not the district expense.
No, everything's event.
Yeah.
Everything's event. Okay.
So then if we move forward with the additional liquor, we will have 3 types of insurance paid for from the proceeds. First would be the additional liquor liability. I'm hearing you guys say we should do that. Second would be the additional general liability. And then finally, we have event cancellation coverage. So in case there's, rain out, it gets covered, there's some kind of losses due to that, it would step in and cover our actual losses. Not lost revenue, lost profit, but actual lost cost.
Is this like the triple play where they buy the ticket, it's a rain or shine type event, so you consider it a donation then, basically?
Yes. Who drafted the actual agreement, the intergovernmental agreement?
That came from the Village of New Lenox, and then we did go through it with our attorney prior to the final. Yeah, prior to the final.
So these are those who had this contract?
Yeah, Chris Petrarch out of his office, yes.
And then gentlemen, any parents that are helping, volunteering, or doing anything with the liquor, there'll be any training or stuff that, not that you can't tell someone's impaired, but after they have that fantastic 20-minute, half-hour presentation, then they're experts, but they will go through that.
The basic training is required of everyone that's going to help.
And with the liquor being served, is this a 21 and over event, or will there be students that will be attending as well?
Yeah, so our kids are going to play to open the thing, the marching band will play, and then it's really, at that point, students could be there with us, but it wouldn't be just drinking, right? There'd be supervision involved in that end of it. As far as the public's concerned, the ticket sales are open to anyone that wants to buy them.
But it's just like Fall Fest, when you march in Fall Fest and there's still alcohol and beer gardens and whatnot. It's still a public forum.
And we'll be supervising our kids extensively.
Are they going to be volunteering their time, coming into contact with liquor and whatnot?
The kids would not.
Okay.
Parents, yes.
Make sure they're not serving beers.
Yes, sir.
Good question. Right, so, a couple kind of more administrative questions. Who is actually in charge of this event? Who, if like maybe say one person was the person to go to, who would be that individual? Is it part of faculty, or is it part of the marching band parents? Who would be the individual?
So we have a team of, we have a Rose Parade Steering Committee that we meet monthly with.
Who comprises it?
Representatives from all three schools of students in the marching band. So there's 2 or 3 representatives from West, a few representatives from Central, 2 or 3 representatives from East. Parents. Okay. Parents, sorry. And then all the directors are also on that committee. So all of this has been planned through that committee and our parents. So.
Should we have a person in charge that's going to be the district's liaison with this? And I think we need something more in the community. I think we need a specific person responsible for this, especially if we're going to be running if the expenses are going to be running through the student activity account.
Yep. So one person with oversight with the finances coming through.
Right.
Yeah. Justin, congratulations.
That's right. Yeah, got here first.
Notice Carrie again was strategically.
Said no.
Which I applaud you for. But also from just any administrative community questions, because obviously this is going to go a lot more public. If we're able to approve this evening, so I don't want to be presumptive, but it will be, then people are going to make questions of us, which we'll be able to answer from our perspective, but we're not in that committee meeting. So that's why I'm asking I want to know whose name and phone number.
You can direct all questions to me. Yes.
Who's signing all the contracts at the end of the day? Is it the band boosters, or is it the district?
Well, the intergovernmental agreement is signed by President Board. The concert or the contract with Night Ranger has been signed by the Village of New Lenox.
All right.
So that's why this bubbled to this point.
That's right.
We were starting to
missing
make a
step.
promise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which again, I applaud the effort. I think it's awesome. We got a dream day, we have big things happen. I just want to make sure we do it right, because I don't want to sit here on the July meeting and sit there and go, oh, I wish we'd have thought of that. Oh, I wish we'd have thought of that, because it'll be too late. Right, Joe?
Absolutely. Just one simple question that I think needs to be asked is, just say that there's
there's not a lot of people that like night range in the community. You sell 1,500 tickets. Who's on the hook?
So let's get that.
Yeah, I know, I just wanted to be.
Which student activity funds will fund this particular student activity fund that we created that we didn't authorize yet?
The district performance band account is the main operational account for the marching band.
That has 88,000.
And that obviously would be moved into the new account that was created, and that money would go to guarantee. Now, those funds are there due to the efforts of our sponsorship committee and all our Spirit Wear committee have raised all that money, and also it's the music boosters who have contributed to that.
It's a great question, because that's why I wrote them all down. I wanted to know which sub-account we're going to move into the new account. And that group has some type of bylaws or protocol that is authorizing that this pre-fund that Rose Bowl concert.
Which group are you saying, sir?
What the band one you just mentioned.
The district performance band account is not, there's no
music boosters.
There's no music boosters attached to it, but that's why, like I said, we have that steering committee made up of parents. There's no formal bylaws, but they are.
So the authorization, we
they
can
have,
assume it implies.
Lies in that group of people, yes.
Very good. Ask and answer. Did you guys both read that interagency agreement? I'm serious.
Yes.
Are you comfortable with it?
Yes.
Okay.
I also read the night range contract, but it's Brown and
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, right.
How many bags of skills?
That's 73 degrees.
Yes, yeah, right.
I don't know who wants a little package of tuna fish. That was an odd one.
They're nice. Dr. Ron, anything else additionally? Good discussion.
Okay.
All right, so we have not had a motion on the second, so I would entertain a motion to enter into the intergovernmental agency agreement for the purpose that has been discussed.
So
we have a motion.
Really quick, do we need to amend this law to provide, to approve it with additional insurance?
I think we're approving the intergovernmental agreement, so
Okay.
we will go through and we gave notice, we'll provide that additional insurance.
Okay. So, all right, I'm sorry.
No, I think that's a really good point, but I think just the intergovernmental agreement itself would be the
Which
action.
is document and then.
Yeah, we can
Document and then.
document
The board
minutes
is
that we
requesting
must,
additional.
yes, additional insurance. Okay, good point.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. We have any additional questions or discussion? All right, hearing none. Call for a vote, please.
Vote is open.
Vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Gentlemen, thank you. Next on our action item is personnel report, employment. Rob?
Good evening. Under employment, Manal Baya, yearbook sponsor, Lincoln Way West. Luke Bell, special services teacher, Lincoln Way Central. Tyrone Bird, head wrestling coach, Lincoln Way Central. Katie Kerwick, special services teacher, Lincoln Way West. Cynthia Ferdinand, bus driver. Luke Fisher, special services teacher, Lincoln Way West. Tracy Grupp, principal secretary, Lincoln Way West. Angela Jones, bus driver. Anne-Marie Krylowitz, computer technician. Kevin Rocket, head wrestling coach, Lincoln Way East. Matt Ryan, special services teacher, Lincoln Way Central. And Megan Ryan, social worker, Lincoln Way High School District. I ask the board to approve the employment report as presented.
Entertain a motion to accept this employment personnel report as presented. There's a motion. Is there a second? Motion and second. Any discussion? Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open.
The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Retirement, Rob.
Under retirement, MacArthur Roney, bus driver, will retire under the IMRF retirement system effective June 13th. Karen Ruttenberg, bus driver, will retire at the conclusion of the 2017-2018 school year. And Rosemary Wright, bus driver, will retire at the conclusion of the 2017-2018 school year. I ask the board to approve these retirements as presented.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the personnel report retirements as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, under resignations, Doug Blevins, painter. Paige DePaula, cafeteria worker. Emily Johnson, assistant coach, girls cross country. Veronica Kaczynski, bus driver. Angela Trend, bus driver. And Emily Valentine, paraprofessional. Under leaves, Carolyn Mushrow, world language teacher, is asking to take a leave for the 2018-2019 school year. Ask the board to approve this personnel report as presented.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the personnel report regarding resignations and leaves as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, vote please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Next action item is revised 2017-2018 school calendar. There's a memo in your packet describing the change. Entertain a motion to accept the changes to the calendar as presented in your packet. There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion or question?
Typically, we would wait to bring this to April, thinking all the snow is behind us. I was hesitant last night, but I think we're safe to go ahead and bring the amended. What this would do is move the finals back one day and move the teacher institute into the following week.
Really?
I know. Last night I was looking outside, I was like, I can't believe this is on the agenda.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Graduation stay the same?
Correct. Yes.
Anything else? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Next action item is regarding the graduation reading requirement. Entertain a motion to accept the graduating reading requirement as presented in your packet. There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Tim, if you want to give a quick overview again.
Sure, yeah. Bringing it back from last month, the key wording is what's highlighted in the middle of the page, and that would be the proposal that we would add to our handbook. We are revising the reading graduation requirement to include all incoming freshmen and any students who transfer in during semester one of their sophomore year. If they come in March of their sophomore year, then you end up with juniors in classes with freshmen. It's not designed for that. It never has been. Let's get them started in high school. So if they come in November of the sophomore year, they'll get enough of the skills and the work. We would keep that. So that would be the suggestion, and then we would just exempt any students who transfer as juniors, seniors, second semester, sophomore.
So we're only voting on the highlighted portion?
That's right. That's the
other side.
To change the name to a reading seminar, a freshman seminar?
No, that's really something we can just do, just change the name.
Okay. By changing the name, though, it won't impact the college issue.
Not a bit.
Just who staffs it, correct?
Right, the NCAA doesn't accept any course with reading in the title anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Reading is fundamental. Hold them on. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Next action item, registration fees for the 2018-2019 school year. Not exactly sure how we want to handle this. All right, why don't we discuss this first?
Just to be clear that way, with the recommendation comes from the administration. I included the background in your backup materials. We would recommend that our proposed student fees remain unchanged for registration, BPW, PE lock, shirt and shorts. You give the Booster Club's parking stickers, 0 hour summer school, and all course fees that are also included. We would change cap and gown to graduation, and then that price change would go from $21 to $30, would cover the cost of the cap, gown, and the diploma and the cover. Also then, in this proposal is an activity or athletic fee of $50 that would be assessed at registration. That fee would be assessed to all students, and we would replace the fee of $10 per activity and $25 per sport that was assessed this current school year. In here, this year, $132,000 have been assessed for activities, but there's still 25 outstanding. In comparison, overall registration, we only have 1.6% outstanding. The assessing by season and collection has proven more cumbersome than anticipated. We can still do it if the board wants to move in that direction, but this would simplify. In speaking with some parents, it would also simplify. And then 210 had discussed this topic, and I will open it up to Member Janice Doyle if Beth wants to provide any insight in the discussion.
Yeah, this was actually 2 months ago that we talked about this in advisory, and obviously the students and parents who are involved in advisory committee are highly involved students, as parents who have highly involved students. So they were paying multiple sport fees and multiple activity fees. So the consensus, actually 100% consensus at the meeting, was that a one-time fee at registration would be easier, that it would probably encourage more students to participate, and it would be a pay once and then you could participate in unlimited amounts of sports and activities. But I think the key thing for the parents, at least, was the convenience of paying at the same time of registration and not having seasonal charges for sports and activities.
This would curtail, though, the fundraising, or there's going to be the candy and the wrapping paper and the cheesecake and the coupon books?
That's a great question. There's still going to be some of that, Ron, and we are looking to, another item on the agenda later in the meeting, I believe will help to curtail some of this. There's been discussion of having a little bit more transparency in terms of the fundraising, and I agree. And that's something that we are going to continue to work with our athletic directors, our coaches, and our activity sponsors so that there are breakdowns of, okay, if we're selling 20 coupon books at $20, how much is going back to the guy who gave us the coupon book? Would it make more sense just to tell the parents, hey, it's $112 and this is what you get for $112? Unfortunately, with as many sports and activities we have, we do require that they turn those into us, but every sport does it differently. I'm more of the belief that you break it down by what the student's getting, and here's the price. The good old-fashioned Real and Treble baseball, here's the buyout, rather than 50 candy bars that are going to sit on the kitchen table and your own kids eat and you have to pay for it. So I think that to answer your question, Ron, yes, we have to move in that direction. There are still going to be some fundraising efforts for some of those sports that are very expensive to maintain. Football is a very expensive sport.
Or you have the Anana, like the Rose Bowl, which costs a lot more.
Like a Rose Bowl, absolutely. But we're looking to control and be transparent in what's going on. I know that everybody's generous, and we do our best to support all the activities, but at some point, you can only have so many Buffalo Wild Wings cards. And so we're, so I agree. And one of the things with what we'll be discussing later in the meeting is setting up team shops by sport where the parents can just go click, 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 and this is what you're buying. You see the price, it's cleaner, it's easier, it's something that we have to move towards.
Yeah, they should be reporting activities, and athletics should be reporting
Yes.
where this money's going consistently,
And
uniformly.
we have it through our activity funds, but to give it back to the parents, that's what we need. I agree with that.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
So that's, obviously, everyone knows that's one of my big issues. I just, again, this is a, an activity fee, participation fee. We have 30% of our students, I think, is a number that don't participate in any activities.
We're about 78 do, so yeah, 20, anywhere between 18 to 22 in a given year, yes.
Again, I don't think, when we're talking about transparency and everything like that, I understand the administrative burden, but I think this people are used to paying for sports that they're in coming up. They pay at the junior highs, the feeder schools coming in. I mean, this way you're just adding this to me is just adding to the registration fee. This should be, again, and this is kind of what we discussed last year when we put in this fee. We talked about making it more holistic with the fundraising and everything like that. I just think I'm not in favor of adding it to the fees at the time of registration. I'm fine with, if there's a way with Skyward that you can charge it and, to accommodate those parents so that they can pay it all at one time, that would be something to look at. Also, I think, I know there might have been some difficulty on the collection. I think some of those are, I don't know, spring sports just went out. And I do think that through a little bit of communication that, we could probably improve the process. Again, I've never gone on Skyward, when my wife handles all that, but I do get the emails. And really, I got the email and it wasn't like, okay, your kid started their season. It was, oh, by the way, you have outstanding fees due. And that was the whole email. And I think if you improve upon that, I think the collection, and I know this is the first year, but I think the collection process would be easier as people move forward. So I don't want the administrative burden, because I think we could possibly work on that to kind of drive that. Also, I think, and this is just like throwing out my experiences when we went on, I guess, and I'm on the board, I'm voting on these things. If we can clarify what activities people are paying for, and I had 2 out there for, and I don't know when they got posted, but we got the notice for Best Buddies. I didn't know, what activities are, being charged for or not. So I just think if we kind of went through and clarified those things, it would probably make the collection more easy.
To your point, everybody gets the fee and not all kids are playing, but last time we discussed this, I did support the fees. And I still am not comfortable having our kids, providing them opportunities and having to pay for those opportunities, the athletics and the clubs. That's what we're here to do. So I still struggle with this, any fee, but I do think that the one flat fee for administratively, for the parents too, I can hear that, I'm hearing that discussion, I'm hearing it. But it's just the whole paying to play just still doesn't settle with me.
So what would be the suggestion from both of you, like no fee?
I said,
what we're doing, what would
he
be?
wants splits and I want none.
I would still be charging, if it's a participation fee, you're charging at that time. If you wanted to go to one activity fee that would cover all activities, I guess, that would be something, but I don't want to be charging those 20-25% of kids who aren't participating in anything, adding another, whatever the fee would be onto their registration. I just don't think that's fair. And again, with for example, the parking fees, I think it's great how we kind of use that for, resurfacing and, that is, but that's, again, the transparency on these fees. Like in the athletic, fees, obviously you have the coaches' salaries that are going to be paying for that, but also, again, just what are these fees going for? And that's why I think it has to be tied specifically, if you're in charge of participation fee, to actually participating in something.
Which I think is another point towards a tiered fee. When you look at the difference between football and Best Buddies, I mean, they're completely, football's, over $100,000 a year. And Best Buddy probably costs you nothing but a couple bus rides. So, but that's a lot of work to figure out how you would categorize sports and how you would categorize each thing. Would it be by how much you pay the coaches? Would it be by how much the school spends on it? Would it be by how much the kids have to spend on it? How would you even attempt to start that? I think would be difficult.
And I think those are things I think I was bringing up last year. That I think we have to answer something.
I think the question, help offset the cost, cover the cost, I think those are very fair, and what, it seems like there still could be more conversation. If the board would like, we can simply pull that from the fees. If the board is comfortable with the rest of the registration list as is, we can get those sent out tomorrow, and we can put activity fees back on the agenda for May, and in the meantime, get us some more questions, and let us know what you would like to see, because I do think this could allow more time to vet, but at the same time, we would like to get the registration open and have kids start signing up so we can start populating their student schedules.
I don't know if this is a good suggestion or a bad suggestion. To your point, there's 18 to 22, maybe 25% of our kids that aren't, and they're paying the $50. Let's just say they're paying the $50. We issue a lot of refunds for when, a swim class gets canceled or swim camp or something gets canceled. Would it be practical, and I'll leave this for the administration to discuss, but would it be practical for those 22% to get their $50 refund at the end of the year if they didn't participate in anything? And I don't know if that's an easy thing to identify or a hard thing.
So throw it out there to encourage them to try something or to get involved, and then if they choose not to by the end of the year.
Refund them the $50.
And they'd have to apply for that. I thought that in the process that if they paid it and it was out there, and the family realized my student didn't participate, then they would make an application for the refund.
To get the refund.
That was one thing that was in my mind as well, but.
And I don't know if that's very practical, but I think that it's certainly worth entertaining, and it streamlines, it addresses a very valid point, and it streamlines the administrative process. There still needs to be better transparent accountability where the money's going, and I know you can do that, but I would just throw that out as a suggestion.
The only thing with that is, the only issue with that is they have to pay the money. And the money is now sitting in the school's account for 9 months. I mean, so people still have to come up with the money.
I understand. But at least in that option, they would have the ability to get it back. They lose the time value of the money.
It's there to Beth's point. It encourages them to.
That actually came from the student voices on the advisory committee. The students were the ones that said, hey, I think that if I didn't participate in anything and then my mom had to pay this at registration, she would tell me, well, now you need to get involved in something. You better join a club, you better do something. That was from the student voices. Right.
That's for the students? The students said that?
Yeah.
I'm going to jump on the third rail here. So we're going to continue to charge for parking stickers, which has been a long, tried, true. But when we didn't introduce any kind of transportation fee,
I was open to the board there. If the board wants to give us direction, we can certainly do that. That was the reason for presenting last month. I would not, at this time, that I believe we're looking at $5 million surplus. I don't know if charging for transportation would be the way to go right now, but it's something we can certainly do.
Well, it's a $5 million surplus to make up a $24 million short-term borrowing. So
Correct.
Let's just make sure we keep
our
efforts in the right motion too. Yep. Secondarily, we discussed that transportation expenses is a heavy expense. There's buses, there's drivers, there's transportation, all associated with
That are
that.
required by law.
Well, okay, we have to provide it, but it doesn't say we can't charge for it.
That's right.
Okay, so let's just again. And part of the challenge is there, we have 6,400 students in our school, and we create bus routes around all 6,400.
We do percentages.
Okay,
Yeah.
but again, we
Yes.
assume that we take the universe of 6,400, we use a percentage of the bus
Percentage,
route
yes.
around them.
Yep.
Where, to the point that Beth just made, that if I paid a nominal, $25, $50 for my student to ride the bus, I'm making a commitment.
Yep.
And then the route can be created around that commitment, that if we find all of a sudden there is no one that is willing to pay the $50 from a certain block or a certain neighborhood or whatever, then we can eliminate that, and obviously there'd be corresponding expense reduction, administrative costs, and we'd be reimbursing ourselves for some of the expenses associated with providing transportation.
Absolutely.
So as much as I find the activities to be a fascinating discussion, and I enjoy it, this, to me, is the most logical one, because we've already crossed this bridge saying that if you drive to the school and you park and there's an expense associated with that, we're willing to charge you for that. But if we gotta go pick you up, almost at your door, and then bring you back here, that's free. And I kind of find that interesting, that's all.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. The benefit of the transfer, I'm not saying, I'm just saying it deserves more consideration, because the benefit of it is to figure out exactly how many students
Right,
are.
at the commitment level, that's the whole, and so, but that commitment comes with a financial commitment. But right now, everybody's committed that, I know there's a bus stop at the corner, so if I need it, I'll go use it. But if I'm not committed to it, then we have to commit to the expense. And I watch it in my neighborhood, the door opens, nobody's there, they move on. You know, they slow down, kind of look down the street, they keep going. Now, there are days when there's one or two kids there, so I get it. But I think the commitment aspect would be a benefit, that's all.
Yeah. Okay, with that being said, though, if you have 6,400 that are eligible, you charge them, and then they say, I don't take the bus, so kind of like the activities fee, you say, oh, we're going to refund them because they're not using it.
That was a proposal.
So that would be an option.
I'm saying that if you know, if you, and most of us have had the family go through the district, or some of us soon will, that you're going through that process. Your freshman, sophomore are going to be your bus riders, unless you've got the upperclassman that has the ticket, that has the sticker, that they can ride with. So you know where your commitment level is going to come from. I'm sure those percentages are put into the whole thing. I just, when I digested this, I'm sitting there, okay, salary benefits are kind of, they are what they are. Where are the flexible kind of numbers in here? That's the one that over the last 20 months keeps jumping out at me. Is that, because I both to the school, we'll be up here for a retirees breakfast or something in a week or so, whatever that is. And there'll be a whole parade of parents dropping kids off. There'll be a whole nother parade going into the parking lot. So if half the student population has eliminated itself, there's got to be an expense reduction associated with that. And the way to get the commitment is just like Beth said, you put your money in, and now you're committed to it.
But I think to Ron's point, it would be, you're opting in or out.
Yeah.
You're not paying it and not using it. It would be.
You can choose not to use it if you
Yeah.
don't want to.
Oh, absolutely.
So it'd be an opt-in and
Yeah,
pay.
yeah. It would, I was just responding to Ron. You would opt in or out.
Might be board members.
You can buy the bananas and let them go bad, I get it. You're not obligated to eat them once you purchase them. But my point would be that by you purchasing them, you've made the commitment to do that. And so it would allow whoever's putting together the bus routes and all the expenses and everything associated with it. So expense goes down, revenue goes up, costs go down, expense to carry cost goes down. I see wins all around here.
Not that we as a district can't set the bar as we did with the seal of biliteracy, but do other districts do this? Is this a common practice?
There's a couple do, a couple do not. I believe Mokena's going away from it next year, if I'm not.
Are we talking transportation?
Transportation.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That's what I was told.
I paid it the last how long?
I mean, I paid for busing when we were there. You know.
Yeah, Mokena's the only one of our feeders that currently do it. In terms of high school, I believe it was Bolingbrook on here that charges quite a bit. Yeah, Bolingbrook, yeah.
What kind of fee might you pay roughly?
Mokena, what did you pay?
250, 280, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
My total fees were $550 to register.
How much was transportation, about 250?
250, 280, I think, right?
I'm nowhere near that number.
No.
I paid it and it was on.
No, I'm just trying to get out.
I think, you know, for me, I'm putting the wheels in motion, you're like, okay, now how does the bus driver know if this kid paid or didn't pay? Just, I think it's worth giving discussion. I agree with you, Joe. I think you need to kind of continue to research it and how you execute it and all that. I totally agree with your whole argument and how you present it. I totally agree. So I'm not opposed. I just think it's got a whole lot more that you just got to put it for the team, our administrative team.
And again, I think there'll be small hurdles to overcome.
Absolutely.
But I think the bottom line impact, we're into the 6 figures.
Right.
If you do it right over a couple of years, it throws a second comment to the number.
Probably ask for transportation after how much.
I think we need to look at, if we could look at ridership and come back with a proposed number, again, based upon $25 a semester, $50 a semester, $100 a semester.
The number is nominal in the process. I think the bigger win is the commitment.
Yes.
And then it eliminates an area that you don't have to provide the transportation to, because nobody committed to it. Now, they may know that there is a bus that needs, it's like 2 blocks away, so in an emergency, you're gonna have to go down there because that's where the bus gets shut at. And you know, how we choose to implement that, that'll be, I believe that Mike and his brilliant people to figure out, but
Logistically, it could eliminate a lot of stops.
No, I agree.
Not that you and Dr. Murphy are looking for things to do on your days off, but is that something maybe advisory could look at, or is this something you want to get done this year?
I don't know if time to do it, because we gotta get it out.
well, okay, it doesn't have to, it can go into place as late as August. I mean, because the buses don't roll until August. And how much did we borrow this year?
24 million.
Thank you. So the answer is urgency. You can't keep taking things and pushing them down, because, and I don't want to get us whole tirade, but we're in the fat, dumb, and happy part of this economy right now. It will turn at some point, and that 5-cast will start to wobble. And if we don't do what we can do now and get the compounding factor of that going forward, we'll have to pay for it twice when it slips. And so, I mean, this is the trap we all fall into. Unemployment at 4%, interest rates low, you know, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden, your back goes up. And now we're frozen. EAV slows, you know, everything else. Where we can get this now and knock down those paws, all we're going to do is benefit.
Is cost reduction something you think that they would be able to calculate based on the number
I
of
would hope
stops?
so, because it's just a pure logistics game.
Yeah.
That if nobody in Springview West decides that they're taking the bus, then it just keeps going on Route 6, rather than swinging back and forth. That's time, that's gas, that's a lot of things.
I think that from what I'm hearing out there is we want this to be vetted, the transportation, because I don't think we're against it. At least I'm not against it.
No.
I think we can bring back the transportation and activities athletics in May for more discussion. We go ahead and we approve the registration fees as presented without the athletic activity and then without any transportation. And the board can continue to discuss, because that's something that can be sent out over the summer.
What would be the best, I guess, meeting date for activities? Would it be May next month? Or would it be
No, I mean, that can be approved in, you know, we've got a
Early August.
early August. I mean, you know, that's
Yeah,
it'd be early August, so that August 3rd.
So we have sometime.
Oh, sure.
So I'll entertain a motion to accept the fees as presented, less the activity. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
The activity and athletics.
Right, I'm sorry, whatever it's referred to as.
So moved, the motion.
We just want to make sure we get it right. Activity and athletic.
That's correct.
All right, so you have a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open, I'm sorry.
The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next is the student photography bid. I'd entertain a motion to accept the student photography bid as presented in your package. There's a motion. Is there a second? Motion and second. Any discussion regarding the student photography bid? Any questions? Hearing none. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Next item is athletic equipment, apparel, and spirit wear bid. I'll entertain a motion to accept the athletic uniform supply bid as presented in your package.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Why don't you describe what exactly it is and maybe importantly what it is not?
Real quick, before Brad starts, this is something that, that I think the board's been discussing in terms of trying to use our margin to our favor in terms of volume. So Brad put together an RFP, sent it out to a number of sporting goods stores, and we received 6 back, and I'll kind of let you summarize the findings and give it over.
Right, actually, we also publicized this as a regular bid. It was advertised. We did have 6 bids returned. We had a committee that met, reviewed the bids. Then finally, we interviewed the selected, as you see recommended here tonight, BSN Sports. We currently do some business with them. One school more than others, but we'd be recommending an exclusive agreement with them. Would provide for additional discounts than we're currently getting, plus additional support for our schools. And I might add, this discount will be extended to parents. So they'd offer web page or web stores. So if you parents needed gear for their students, they could purchase that and get the same discount the district is getting. And that would be provided back to at the district, free shipping. So we would recommend moving ahead with this agreement.
Scott, you gave, when I called to inquire about this, you gave a good example of how the parents can go on and save X amount of percent because of this agreement.
Yeah, I think the big one for parents will be shoes. Each coach, each team will be able to put together their own team store, and we went through and checked the price points of all shoes. For instance, the basketball shoes in the catalog are priced at $100 to $110, which is what you're going to find at Dick's. However, once you take the 35% discount that you can utilize for school and shipped here, that is quite a savings. The other, in terms of hoodies, sweatpants, bags, all things that our kids use and wear and fundraise for, it's now on the team shop. And that discount will be passed on to the parent as well. So once we hit certain thresholds of the agreement, then there are more rebates coming back to the district. From a parent perspective, I think it makes a lot of sense. I am familiar with BSN. I was the principal at East. East is the school that uses them the most.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of their service, in terms of their commitment, their follow-through, well, I've been very pleased.
When you said, so someone ordered it, so first of all, is it going to be hooked up to the Lincoln Way website then, or the sports, the sports site?
That
Part of the agreement.
part of the team shops, yes, Chris.
So if someone ordered it through there, it could ship to the school?
Seems like it's been a lot of boxes of shoes and hoodies coming in the store.
They've told us as they do this, it's an order at a time. They get it, they put the name on the plastic wrap, they go through the warehouse, collect everything, put it in there, seal it up, and then it comes with the name on it.
Right, yeah, I'm not worried about that part. Now, the part I'm worried about is now it's delivered here. I mean, is there a big burden on that to distribute this?
It won't be, because it'll be going sport by sport, coach by coach. A number of our coaches are doing the team shops now, and they've been able to manage this. So I don't think it's going to be additional.
Plus we get the shipping for free. Right?
So it goes to the coach to distribute?
Yeah, so it'll go to the loading dock, it'll be packaged together as girls softball, and then the coaches will take that, bring the girls in, everybody will get their bag.
But if someone, I mean, if I went out and ordered shoes, so I ordered basketball shoes, September, right, before basketball starts.
It would have to be in a team shop, so. for us-
It
so-
opens and closes on certain days.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Okay.
Right.
Right, okay, all right, yeah,
No,
okay.
it's gotta go
Okay.
through the team shop.
Right.
Yeah, it's gotta go-
We use these at breakfast. So like the basketball team will send out like the link to this and they'll say it's open from this date to this date. Staff can order it if they want to support it, parents can order it, community can order it, and then they handle the distribution of the stuff.
We're behind a little bit of this, because we talked about this before in another life. We're finally getting to a point, and we're aggregating to get economies of scale as well.
Because I know, I don't know who was running it, like, firm-wise, but there was a team store for the girls soccer team available, I don't know.
It could have been created and used any shop that.
Yeah.
did
So this is
printing
just
or-
consolidating.
Correct.
We are only going to go through VSN for the team shops. Now, it does not have to be Nike exclusivity on the team shop. There are other VSN, so if it's a Champion sweatshirt or Russell or whatever that may be the case, different discount levels. Correct.
But the team uniform, if you read this, just full disclosure, will all have the swoop. And the team leadership will all use swoop, including coaches.
This is a
This
three-year,
is not-
oh, sorry, a three-year agreement?
Yes, as presented.
Right. It's fine.
This doesn't mean that all the teams that aren't using, don't have current Nike jerseys are going to go out and have to buy new jerseys.
Correct. This is through our natural cycle. So every sport has their natural uniform cycle. We do not have to change what that cycle would be.
It's not immediate to everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, the immediacy of it, if you read it, coaches do.
Right, I did.
Right, but the team uniforms do not. And so that's built into this. Great, I know, estimate for me, just ballpark, what does this mean bottom line, either in savings or revenue to the district?
Yeah, we've estimated about 225,000 of revenue or value in saved product cost.
Is that annual or over the term?
Annual.
So over the term of the contract, we're talking almost $700,000.
Yes.
And that's just athletics.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Just, what's the impact branding write-up? I mean, is that for signage? It says signage.
So what that could be, Chris, there are a number of things we could use that for. Wind screens on our tennis courts. We could use them for wind screens on the softball or baseball. We could use them for floor mats, different, like at basketball where you've got the coach's box. We could use them for floor mats. We could use them for different decorations throughout the building. So Bradley gave us a couple of examples.
Right, and they actually have a whole department, or it's almost a company dedicated to this. One of the things they'll do is if we do enter this agreement, they'll bring out a rep, meet with a committee at each school, and work with them to, determine the things that they see important, promoting the school and team spirit.
Could be a new scorer's table for volleyball and basketball.
And the question that I had, that we still haven't gotten into real, this doesn't exclude any additional sponsorship. Let's hypothetically say that you're going to use the Nike money to put pads at the end of the basketball. So the kids are making a layup and they can't stop to get the pad. If for whatever reason, Apple, Comcast, you name it, we can still pursue those activities.
Just can't do it.
Aquafina.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
And I think this helps the fundraising issue as well, as far as
I mean, the
figuring out
750
where this money's going.
is either expense reduction or revenue enhancement to the district. I think the other point to be made is there'll be a value proposition back to the families that are participating, so that if a coach says, hey, we want you to buy this shoe, you're not buying it at retail. And the margin that they're leaving in this is, it's a nominal margin. They're making a play somewhere else in this game. They're doing this differently. So, well, they're not losing money, but
I'm not sure how they're paying for the shipping again.
I'm not sure how they're gonna pay for the shipping, but that's their problem, not
It's
mine.
not, it's not our problem.
Well, if the store's windows only open for a certain amount, they may be able to ship everything in one thing as opposed to individually.
Well, yeah, but we could talk about logistically, but generally what they do is they take it, they put it in, package by the name, put it in a box and send it to the volleyball coach.
Yes.
And that's how it comes, and then she gets it out to whomever. And that could happen daily depending on the volume.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a motion to accept the contract as presented. There's a motion, is there a second? Motion and second, any additional discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open.
The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Next, our music band, or I'm sorry, marching band instruments. I'd entertain a motion to accept the marching band instruments purchase as presented. The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion?
Terry, as long as you stayed, I'll ask, all the equipment that was left over from Lincoln Way North and was distributed, that all the equipment is being utilized, none of it's being stored, if you know?
Right now, some of it is stored at Lincoln Way North. We kind of divided up, took the best of the equipment that was left. Some of it was already pretty significantly aged because it came from Lincoln Way East, wasn't purchased new from North.
Gotcha.
So all of the really quality equipment is being used currently. Some of the really old equipment is not.
Appreciate it, thank you.
So that stored inventory is not anything that would be picked up in this request for, that's presented in front of us for the marching band.
Right.
Very good. Good question.
Is this something we purchased in the past?
Well, we have not purchased any type of equipment from the district funds, certainly in the 5 years since I've been doing this. That money, this is typically was purchased previously out of activity accounts at close of the year, and that's something that we've, significantly improved upon over the last several years. So this is something now, in fact, they met today, Brad met with the music chairs today. We're developing budgets, replacement budgets, so that we can get this through a cycle and budget for it on an annual basis, so that we can get to a 10 to 12 to 15,000 per year rather than here's 60,000. Let's replace this now. And so we're going to work on budgeting and continue to work on different areas that we've made some improvements, but this is an area that if we can get everything in cycles and get a plan, and that's something Brad's working with the chairs to develop now.
So do we anticipate needing to make any more purchases from now until the local parade?
I know they're going through and doing some more inventories, and like I said, I'm working with them on the rotation. I think between now and then, there could be some other things, but this is the large part of it.
Would it make sense to try to get those all in to try to get a better price at that point?
Well, what's important about what we're looking at here, most of this is used equipment, so they've already done a great job going out there, finding used equipment that's in great shape, and, this is a good thing for us to jump on right now.
So it's a form of deferred maintenance with these instruments that now, and they're buying quality used equipment.
Right.
Since they're here, see what we just did with the athletic side? Kind of need to lean into that on the music and art side, where we find the right partners and we utilize the aggregate group to get some economies of scale as we go forward.
The side with the band trucks, they have.
I understand it, but in a more, but that's that part of it. But just, I think there's some opportunity there. We're always improving. So. All right, so we have a motion.
This will be added to the budget on a go-forward basis.
Well, that's what
this is some, not this, but
Not necessarily.
not necessarily this amount.
Right.
But as a cycle amount to say 10 to 12,000 every year we'll need to get budgeted for. And this will be it for this fiscal year, correct? So we'll get to June and we won't need anything else?
Well, they're still doing, I'm not going to say we're not going to have a few minor things between now and the end of the fiscal year, but this is the big thing.
Okay. Fair enough. Very diplomatic in your response. Any other questions? If not, we have a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. Next action item are activity bus purchases. I'd entertain a motion to accept the bids in your package for the activity bus purchase.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion.
So these are the short white buses?
Yeah.
Yep. I have a question. The price went down from earlier in the week. What happened?
More negotiating.
When we first got the package, there was another number.
That's right.
So they still have all the wheels?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, good for you.
And this is saving of $66,000.
But yeah.
Oh, is that 66,000 over
So-
5 years, or how does that work?
Yeah, so if we went back out and released these buses new, we would pay about $66,000 additional dollars over a 5-year period. Now, I can't say we're gonna save exactly that, because I don't know. These are in great shape, low miles, you know, there's no reason for us not to keep them, and we're gonna save most of that $66,000.
Just, I'm sorry. I just, we need all 5 buses, that was the next question.
Yes, it's 6.
I'm sorry, 6 buses. We need all 6 of them?
Right, if
Okay.
we weren't going to purchase these, I'd be back here in a month and saying, okay, here's a lease, we're gonna go back and lease 6 new.
Okay.
And, my district just purchased new buses, and they were just under 50 apiece. So if you look at like the 10-year cost, it's like, yeah.
The savings part is great, I just wanted to make sure we actually do need 6 buses. I mean, I'm all about the numbers, that make perfect sense, yes.
Fall and spring, they are out
Okay.
every day, and then winter, a couple days a week.
No, I was just going to ask, how many of these buses do we have? So it's these 6.
I'm sorry, what?
How many buses do we have total
How many
of
activity
this
buses?
size?
Oh.
6?
Mike, have any?
8 total.
So this is a big part of it.
Do we own the other 2?
We're leasing to own.
Yeah, we own the other 2.
We will own them at the end of lease.
So I would suggest we wait 1 more week, and if you get it reduced by 25%.
So why is it beneficial to lease the other buses but to own these? What's the?
Well, it's kind of, I don't want to say complicated, but okay, so first off, this is just for our district. Realizing the buses that we lease are for across all districts. So when we crunched through all the numbers, and I sat down with all the other feeder districts, who actually represent 2/3 of our transportation costs, I said, okay, what do you guys want to do? And they all said, we want to continue to lease. The biggest thing with the leasing is you do not have that exposure, that risk to resale. But as we witnessed with these, these actually had you can see what they said they're going to have to sell for, and we negotiated that out, blah, blah, blah. So I'm still a little leaning towards, I think next time up we would discuss again about purchasing buses, but right now at the juncture we're at, it was still determined leasing was what we did.
It was going to be a bigger upfront cost too, if I recall correctly, of purchasing versus leasing on the larger buses, and that was not going to work. Because I think we did discuss that at the time.
Right, there's several things on the big buses. It's like, we'll get our credit rating into better shape. We've got to have more capital available. But, these are things we'll continue to discuss.
Thank you, Brad.
Sure you don't want to wait 1 more week?
Yeah. In fact, I want to make sure you understand that by approving this, you're approving the payment also. Because one of the reasons I did get the additional discount, because I said we would pay before their end of their fiscal year, which is April 30th. So we will be cutting a check. If this is approved, we'll be paying for them ASAP.
No, so it's $24,000 less than the first time.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
It wasn't pretty close. High five, get one free.
Well done.
Are they
Well done.
publicly traded company? I'm just trying to figure out why they didn't discount.
calls you the petty, you better pay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any additional comments? Hearing none, open for vote, please.
The vote is open. Vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Next action item. Food service lunch prices. I'd entertain a motion to accept the food service lunch prices proposal as presented in your package.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? 30 seconds. Sure, the 30 seconds is, we've not increased our prices for some time. We're asking for a 25 cent across for lunch and breakfast. And this is, as you can see, we've attached the budget. This funding is necessary for the lunch program to continue to operate at a break even.
Thank you.
There's no additional questions, open for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Next are our policies, second reading.
Probably discuss first. Included in your backup materials were the second readings of policy. They did include the policy on safety 41070, which the board would like to discuss. Also then, policy 820, it made a minor change. The only language change in that, school facilities are available. It was to community organizations during non-school hours when such use does not. And then basically what we did was just put school facilities are available to the community during non-school hours. And then the other additional superintendent's notes are in there, but there were no major changes in the policy.
Any questions regarding the policies? Please note them.
I was just gonna, so 820, this is a new, normally when we're reviewing these policies, there's some, we're going through an update cycle. Was this was not a policy, this is a new policy?
No, 820 is a policy. So the only changes are redlined in there. So that was brought forward by a board member, so I wanted to share it with the group. We would just be changing the word organizations. Instead of school facilities are available to community organizations, it's just are available to the community, which they are during non-school hours.
This doesn't.
But this policy has been in place, I don't know.
I see the last revised.
Last revised, so, and that was probably a footnote change. The policy is not changed.
So the spirit of both 8.20 and the 4170 security policy were in light of the incidents that occurred down in Florida. And rather than have them go through the traditional cycle and have there be a gap in the policies, it was brought forward and thought to be prudent that we take a look at them and determine, are there any changes that need to be made? Now, we've heard discussion today, eloquently presented to us, that these policies don't necessarily address that prohibition that is right now with administration.
Correct. Correct.
Correct what?
This policy doesn't address the fact that the citizens can't use pools.
Right.
There is not a policy.
There's not a policy.
There's no policy.
There's no.
So really, you go back to the 4170, which kind of loosely says from a safety and soundness perspective, the administration has the ability to make a decision that they feel serves that safety and soundness type over umbrella type concept. So that's why they're
Right. So, and we charge our administration because the student's safety is paramount. I don't think anyone is here to disqualify that.
We're not here every day there.
But I adamantly feel that the taxpayers were promised to use these facilities They're paying for these pools, and they should be able to use the facilities that they were promised
During the school day.
during the
while
school
students
hours.
are
They are not
walking
a
around.
threat to our students. There has to be some way in this day of age to let them come in safely. Do I know exactly what that is? I don't have the exact answer. But they are not a threat. They are not.
I would agree with you, Christine. The problem is the world operates in gray. We, as a community, as a public body, have to operate black and white. When you treat one group different from someone else because we don't have that crystal ball, people call that discrimination. We can't give one group kudos and say you don't appear to be a threat, and then say, oh, you may be because of a certain anomaly or whatever the case is, because then you treat people differently. So until you treat everyone the same, if that means excluding one, you have to exclude all.
And there's a process to allow them to come in. I mean, everybody has to apply. I mean, there's got to be some reasonable solution to this. It makes no sense to me that we can't figure out a solution to allow them to use the facilities that they're paying for, that we are paying for.
But they can.
But that's not what we promised. That's not what.
We also
what
have
Brandon was about.
180 school shootings in 2006. Since then, we have. Times have changed. And I mean, not to address the elephant in the room, in all honesty, but, you know, what a former administration promised to get a referendum passed isn't where we are today. The reason that was presented was to pass those referendums, let's be frank, okay? The bottom line is that's why they work.
And they
It's a
result,
different-
and that's what we
day and
promised,
age.
and here we are, and we should
Right.
still all get that.
So what would you suggest would be a new protocol? And I say you don't have an answer. What potentially would solve having people be able to come in, have a secretary sign someone in, no one's checking bags, there's not security, people walking these people to where they need to be, you could roam around anywhere, and I'm not saying this group of people, but when you say anyone can come in from the community, that literally means
Or we
anyone.
implement a process that says if you want to come in and use our pools, you have to apply, you have to go through perhaps a screening check, you have to pay a $10 application fee or whatever it costs for the screening check to allow them to come in. They've already been pre-screened, whether this group or that group or that group. Whether it's a,
Who
you
in
know,
the school is responsible for making sure that they go where they're supposed to go?
yeah, after they're passing, again, this is all, I'm making a hypothetical
Yeah.
suggestion.
No, and I understand that. I'm just asking it from a day-to-day standpoint. When
Where
someone
everybody else
comes into my
comes in, we
building,
have deliveries that are brought in, and where do
Right.
they all go to?
Where do they all go?
Deliveries to the
delivery
loading
people.
dock.
the loading dock, they don't have
They
access
go to
to
the
the front door.
designated area, probably.
Salesmen, other people who come in.
We got it. Yes, we do. We're
I mean,
having
my
a
point
discussion
is-
here. Please.
When anyone comes into our building, we have a security desk. They do the same thing like they do here with the ID scanning. But we have 7 security guards. When someone cannot leave that room until a security guard escorts them, we don't have that here. So they are escorted by a security guard, any adult that is not a staff member, while they are in the building. Who is going to escort these people? Are we going to hire a whole new security staff of 10 more people to
I
manage
don't know if it
this?
needs 10 more people, but if it's an additional security officer, perhaps. I think we have to.
And I'm not saying I'm opposed
find
to
a
that, I'm
solution.
saying right now, as it is, there isn't anybody on a day-to-day basis to manage the people coming in.
I think we're also missing the fact that there's people walking around the
Yep.
gym while there's students running around throwing balls. These are large kids these days. I mean, that can frankly not be paying attention to what they're doing.
Right, so that's not
You know,
security.
we have a responsibility to protect the people that are in the building, and if we have just, an elderly person walking around, and you have, football players running in the gym, throwing around, goofing off, and they plow into somebody.
Well, we can walk and track. How many accidental reports have we had in 20 years?
We've had a handful of incidents, trip and falls, we've had, but nothing major. We've been fortunate there, we've been fortunate. And I think, I'm just gonna talk about the school perspective. It's over 100,000 potential users, and I go back to who makes that decision. I never have said this is a bad idea. I've said, since I've become superintendent, I've not been comfortable with this practice. Not only for our student safety, but as important for the senior citizens walking. Mr. Janik brought up, we have people walking on the tracks as kids are flying around. we want to be open, we want the people to be able to utilize our facilities, but it shouldn't be when we're operating classrooms. It just shouldn't be, and that onus that we've put on our secretary to decide who comes in and who doesn't, that's a lot to ask. And so, we're certainly open to suggestions from the board, but that's kind of our perspective on it right now.
Well, I mean, am I the only one that, it sounds like I'm the only one that feels strongly enough about this, from this board to even suggest to our administrative change.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say you're not the only one.
Okay.
Because I'm going to play both sides of this really hard, really quick. Because if we're going to do it with swimming, we're going to do it with walking, and the other one that perplexes me is voting. Right? We open up the buildings to a voting population. That is anybody over the age of 18 that registers that can freely walk in and exercise their right to vote a couple times a year.
Right.
Well, okay, that kind of makes me feel a little uncomfortable.
It's already been canceled.
We don't do that at our school.
We've
notified. The other one that I kind of got to throw out into the mix is the Aunt Nancy's. We have a for-profit organization that provides a service that we find beneficial from a human resource perspective and an employer of choice that we continue to do. But they come and go through that building. Their employees come and go through that building. People pick up and drop off at that deal, and I know there's probably designees and some form of a vetting process that we don't know. And yet they enter the building, and I know when you enter those buildings, the one in Nancy's, they're former classrooms. They're not segregated. There's not a double door and a buzzing system. They're in the school. So I take that aspect of it. Then I'm going to take the other side of it, and with all due respect to my colleague Ron here, yes, it is the times we live in, but some of this is media driven, okay? I mean, I don't want to throw out statistics and play this game, but there are a lot of other greater threats to students than school shootings, okay? So we're not addressing texting and driving. We're not addressing an opioid crisis. We're not addressing a lot of other things that are threats, that if you did it on a quantitative population type perspective, that's not being discussed here. So we go down that route. I guess one person's thought is that if the policy continues as it exists, and I guess if you were going to ask me to vote right now, I would vote yes, the policy should exist as it is, but it doesn't eliminate it. It puts it on the onus of the people that are managing the district to do that. I would suggest that a task force be created with the specific guidance to look at this. Now, administration has weighed in. They've said, hey, you know what? Considering the current environment, we think this is the prudent thing to do. We've got community members saying, hey, that's interesting. Well, we don't agree. And we've got some interesting perspectives on the board. I would say let's set it aside, put the experts, get people that are passionate about it, we heard the word passion earlier tonight, have a discussion about it, put the numbers to it, look at best practices that exist, and then if we as a district, if we as a community, the we aspect of this, feel it's important enough, then we bring it back and we put the onus back on us. Are we going to dedicate the financial resources, the human resources, and whatever other mitigating resources may be to fulfill on a promise, to fulfill on a community need? Or if we find it so burdensome that it just can't be done, then the answer will become apparent. But I think that that's what we owe each other. We owe the administration, and I think we owe the community to do that. That's just one person's opinion.
I agree with that. I mean, is there any student use, and I don't know if this would need the community, but I mean, is there any student use of the pool before school hours?
Practices. There are practices. Swimming, water polo. We could develop a morning schedule, and that's something that's been discussed. The two schools that we would be able to partition off, for lack of a better word, would be Central and East because of the entranceway. Once you get into West, you're in. But at Central and East, that's something that we will work on, and that's something I have discussed with our aquatics directors as we look into next fall and summer. I agree with the option of having some people take a look at this. If there's a way that people can come in and out of our building in one secure area and they're not in classrooms, then I think we're open for discussion.
I don't know that our swimming pools are used every period of the day either. That's
Yeah.
something we would have to look at. Currently, all freshmen take swimming, so I don't believe that Central and West pools are used every period of the day.
Those of you.
Yeah, I mean, that, and that could be a schedule, yeah.
Like I said, there's just gotta be some solution here. We're smart people.
But the
We have a
policy-
great community. It's a
policy
community,
gives the
it's a community
authority-
asset.
The policy gives the authority to the superintendent to develop these security plans.
Which he has done. So
Right.
that part, I think, we talk about is a black and white world. It exists. But I think that the aggregate we, and I include everyone, the district, the board, and the community, the aggregate we can take the time, as Chris has presented, and say, hey, let's look at this. I heard a fascinating one said, hey, pick one of the two schools, and you kind of threw out, hey, here are two of them that might work. And it may come back and we have to go to Brad and say, you know, Brad, for us to do this, we're going to need an additional $40,000 worth of security equipment in this whole thing. And so then it comes down, are we going to meet policy 420? You know, where's that $40,000 going to come from? I don't know. I'm spitballing right here, but it's just in the absence of it, I think the decision to be made at the time, I supported it. I was like, okay, great. There's a shooting. Everybody's a little bit panicked. Let's
I don't think it's just shooting though. I mean, I
understand,
personally, I don't
but-
think that's,
no,
I mean, when Ron said that, I was like, yeah, but I feel uncomfortable in a lot of ways. Like, we had incidents at my school, inappropriate types of things. I just don't necessarily feel comfortable with girls swimming and random adults swimming next to them.
I don't disagree. I just use it as the genesis of what caused this current
Okay.
to somebody
To
brought up
come to a head.
the reaction. Right. It caused it to happen. There are a lot of other mitigators here.
Yes.
I mean, even the advent of these things, when you're walking around
Yes.
and people taking pictures
Yes.
and ended up in the wrong spot, it's different than it was in 2006.
Absolutely.
The iPhone didn't exist.
Absolutely.
So you could be recording and doing all kinds of stuff that, you know, is the certain population using it right now doing that? No, but could the other
100,000.
99,850 people that weren't part of the petition signing do that? Yeah, I suppose. So that's why I think it just takes time to step back and vet it and put some real numbers to it rather than the speculation that we seem to do. And unfortunately, you guys have all heard this too many times from me, but speculation is just that.
So to recap, we have to, eventually put a motion on the table to approve the policy edit, or policy, we have the policy second reading.
Which the policy edit actually expands it more.
Correct. But then there's a separate action item, and that is to have perhaps a task force, as you suggested, to discuss the use of the pools by the community. And the ban that's currently on stays in place until we continue to look at some options.
Wouldn't be,
person's left.
yeah, it wouldn't be an action, it would be a directive. But yes, the board can make a directive to look into this, if you want us to do it, if the board wants to do it, whoever you would want to put this task force together.
The policy does, I understand, the policy has nothing to do with the,
This may be a broader discussion point, but, you know, the policy 4.170 discusses the security plan. Who, I guess, is in charge of our security plan here?
We have one by building, they all go through, Rich Mickey is our director of safety security, if you will. So we have different plans in place for different emergencies, whether it be tornado, whether it be school shooting, so all of those are in place. Some are open to the public purview, some are not.
Right, of course, of course. I mean, would it make sense to explore, after talking about this, having a director of security, maybe on a part-time basis, someone that is, you know, involved in these discussions? Obviously, Rich has got a lot in place, monitoring and maintaining the facilities and the buildings and grounds. Just an idea of something, you know.
It's a great idea, and I think that would be part of what the task force could surface.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I understand it's $24 million cause.
I know.
And the borrowing, but I'm not saying, hey, let's just go out and hire somebody.
But I'll be the first person to tell you, somewhere in that $80 million budget, there's different priority levels.
Right.
And that's part of what we're charged with, is to take those limited resources and allocate them to get the best results. Most of it's education, which I think we can all applaud and say we get excellent results. But that doesn't have to be the only result. And so I think that, to Chris's point, and that's why I said, no, I'm kind of with you on this, that we have to challenge ourselves. What it is this. The gentleman made the decision with the appropriate input from the staff. All right, you've got that job. Now we can say, okay, let's take the deeper dive. Then you got 100+ people, I don't know where the petition ended up, I was trying to circulate it, that said, hey, take a deeper dive. Just take the time to take a look. I'm not telling you you're going to come back and find a solution that fits us. But I'm telling you that there's a possibility we might. The only thing I know for sure is if we do nothing, we won't find a solution at all, one way or the other.
Would you look at it administratively, or maybe use the strategic committee that's already doing buildings and grounds and security to look at that?
I would suggest it be a separate task force, a specific task force by business clinical definition that says, this is what you're looking at, this is your time frame, and this is when you give us a result. Because if we leave it too open-ended and it gets too cumbersome, then unfortunately people will sit here at 9:30 on the third Thursday of every night for a year, and we'll be right back where we were, either yes or no, or whatever we're doing. So I'd say, maybe my suggestion would be that Scott and I can convene on this. We'll come back, I'll give his recommendation internally. Ron, I'll probably turn to you immediately because you're the person that has lived in this venue. Beth, I'd probably turn to you immediately because you live, you're a teacher. Okay, and then say, great, we'll look to our community members and say, give us some individuals that you want to work with us, and then I can help drive it. I live in this world. This is what we do. We create task force, we solve problems, and sometimes problems aren't solvable. They're truly a conundrum. And every time you move a piece, you're not going to find an answer. So you have to set the Rubik's Cube down and pick up the magic 8-ball. That's just how it works.
I don't know.
Hey, that's how we make decisions. Thanks. I don't know.
I don't think any of us are opposed to looking into this, looking into this further.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the agenda at hand then. And we have two policies. We have policies that are here for a second read with the amendment on there in the discussion we've had. And entertain a motion to accept the policies as presented in your package.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Motion and second. Any additional discussion regarding the policies? Hearing none, a call for a vote, please.
The vote is open.
And then,
Vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
then as a byproduct of this policy discussion, I think as a board, Scott, we're giving you directive to put together this task force, and I will work with you to outline and define what the task force is. That doesn't mean the task force can't move the pieces around, but in a true task force type environment to address this particular issue at this particular time. And then if there's no, we'll address that once there's either a solution or determine there is no answer to this also. Fair enough?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, and the final action item. Don't let it say that we don't take action. The Board of Education meeting schedule for 2018-2019 was in your package. I would entertain a motion to accept the Board of Education meeting schedule as presented. And the budget calendar, yes, I'm saying both are together. Thank you. Is there a motion? Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
So we're meeting August 2nd, not August 16th.
Correct, and the reason is
Create a little bit of a summer break.
it allows, we all kind of take turns on vacation, and then also, it gives plenty of time for us to close the fiscal year at the end of June and have everything ready to be presented August 2nd. The reason we moved back to August 30th, we've always tried to have a board meeting that first week of school, which has been very difficult. So by moving it back a week, that allows us an opportunity to get the schools open, get our back to school nights, and then turn around and meet August 30th, and then we go into our normal schedule. As you can see, December 13th would include the strategic planning update as we did this last year. And then we just finish out the remainder of the year. We did not put as an official board meeting the state of the district. We can either do that on a separate date, or we can include that in the January 17th meeting, with it being 1 hour
45 minutes to an hour in length. I'll take directive from the board as we get closer, whether we wanted to have a standalone evening or to do it on the 17th at, let's say, 6 o'clock prior to the meeting. Of course, that's exactly comes to it. But that would be my recommendation, is to include it in the meeting, maybe even start at 7 and just have that as part of the meeting.
But to your point, Chris, that came out of your strategic planning group.
Right.
So it will still be supported, it's just this year we
Yes.
did it as a meeting.
Standalone
and
meeting.
So it's like, why do we really need to do it as a meeting? Just give your presentation. Okay. Any other questions? Great question. Please, Chris.
So I think we need to add on this budget calendar, if we're going to, so we don't run into the same problem we did this year with the capital projects and having capital projects coming up just for consider and approve. We're going to formally have the board supposedly weigh in on these. It should be somewhere on here earlier than that, before the bids are going out. Sometime in like December. Anytime before the bids are going out.
Probably say early. If you want another meeting, if there were questions, I'm sorry, late third quarter. So,
You couldn't include it?
I mean, right now, how about this? Right now, we're anticipating on October 18th, we would meet with the board, review the 5-year financial forecast and the 10-year capital improvement plan. It was planned at that time to go ahead and have the board approve the list, because then we begin engineering, go out to bid in January, come back for approval in February.
So, but line it out there. Put it in there.
Okay.
If it's an approval,
So there's a little more definition on the
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open.
Can we add like 10 more action
The motion is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. We appreciate everybody's patience as we went through that. But it was a good discussion. Great outcomes. Informational items.
First reading proposed school handbook changes. Just refer to your backup materials if you have any questions, comments, or concerns between now and the next meeting. Please bring them to us, and we'll be ready to discuss for approval at the next meeting.
Did the 210 advisory committee?
Yes, so these suggestions are from the 210 advisory committee.
Okay, great, thank you.
Next item, Lincoln Way Special Education District report. Ron, anything?
As District 843 is doing fine, we currently have 3 personnel issues that are under review. So we really can't discuss them here in open forum. If you have any questions, we could discuss them in closed. As they become through fruition, we could discuss them probably next month. They should be finishing up the next week or so. We meet Tuesday. So as of this point, the district is fine, just some personnel things we're dealing with.
Ron, I read in the paper that Bill looking at possibly.
Yeah, it's amazing. I read that too. 161, and a lot of the people say we're not transparent. It's how when you're the president of a board and you find out from the paper that they're thinking about maybe. That's something we're going to have to look at Tuesday night because, there's an 18-month exit, if you will. So, if we're going to do that, there's some people that are probably going to be looking for other opportunities. It's going to be hard to keep the staff coming on. Dr. Tingley is the chair. We'll be talking with other superintendents. So we don't know because it's a lot of unknown. There is no communication, unfortunately. And as transparent as they say, we're not, like I said, it's hell to read about it in the paper. So we'll get there. As soon as I know something, I'll let you guys know.
All right,
and we'll convey it.
We would not be in a position to continue in the cooperative without District 161 as a member. It would put a tremendous financial burden on this district. We're already paid for about 40% of the overhead administrative operating costs. And with Summit Hill leaving, they're the second largest
of the cooperative, and it's broken down by total student enrollment in your district, not by how many students are served, because you can potentially serve all 6,900. So that's something we're going to work very closely on. If they do decide to formally request a withdrawal, we will have to seriously consider either withdrawal or dissolution ourselves. But that's something that would be discussed completely in open session. It would be put on the agenda and discussed here in open session with the members of the board.
How soon do we think we'll know if they're going to be withdrawing?
January 1st, I believe, is their deadline to notify, and then that's an 18-month window. So basically, they would have to notify by January 1 to get through the remainder of that, plus one more year. District 122 left the cooperative, I want to say 7 years ago, somewhere. It was before I started, yeah, it was before I started. So, no, it was at least 5 years ago. So we're familiar with the process. But still more to come. We're going to keep a very close eye on it because, as I said, I don't think that we would be in a position to continue to function if they were to leave the club.
So if they were to leave, we would be bound by that same 18-month withdrawal period?
We would, and I would hope that if their departure is imminent, that the superintendents and school boards would work together towards a dissolution so that everyone were working together in the same process. We currently utilize Pioneer Grove for our autistic students, and we utilize McKay. Those are the two main programs, and then certainly transportation. District 844 has over 500 students currently being transported with special needs. That's the largest program. There's fewer than 160 in programs, but the special ed transportation component is the largest component of the cooperative, and to be quite honest, the most has the most risk and liability associated with it.
So as we know more, both Dr. King and I will keep you guys informed, but it's kind of an unknown at this point other than the article we spoke about.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That concludes my report.
Thank you. That's FOIA request.
FOIA requests are included in your backup material. If you have to answer any questions.
Any questions of any FOIA requests? Audit findings.
And nothing new to report. No, we just put the summary of the findings on there. We continue to work towards a comprehensive manual, and that will be something that will come up here in the first reading controls shortly.
Building and grounds report.
If there are any questions, I'm sure Rich would be happy to answer them, but it's again comprehensive report, which I Rich putting it together.
Any questions regarding building there? Superintendent advisory.
At our last meeting, we discussed the senior second semester exemption policy, and currently the policy is a student must have no more than 5 absences in second semester and an 83% in the class in order to be exempt from the second semester finals. The push is to lower the percentage to a 73% for a couple of reasons. One, to encourage students, seniors, to achieve a C or better in their class the second semester, because everything is based on 7 semesters, as you know, not the 8th. The other reason that I thought was interesting that I hadn't even thought of was a couple of the AP students talked about how they work really hard to earn a C in an AP class, and the 73 is a C. And they are also taking the AP test. So they would have to take a final and the AP test and study for both at the same time. So that was one of the reasonings behind that I had never considered before, that some of the kids that were in, I think it was like honor or AP Chem and AP Physics and stuff, said that a C is an excellent grade in AP. So
it's kind of an unintended consequence of everybody moving in AP.
Yeah.
Which is
yeah. And I mean, I personally always been of the belief that the AP test should be the final for the class, so there shouldn't be finals, but that's another discussion.
With the session points, I get it. I don't disagree with the 8th semester syndrome, if you will, senioritis. But to say you're going to get out of finals with a C, just as a parent,
right now, and maybe I have to think about that, but it just, I kind of.
C and AP.
A
C and AP physics.
I know, so they're valid, but it's something, I mean.
C's get degree.
Yeah.
So,
I look at it, you know, not taking your finals is a privilege, right? So it's something you earn.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, some kids are C students and they're very successful, so I don't.
Yeah. Well, C is a weighted B, so they,
Right, okay,
you know.
all right.
And that was pretty much all we
Continue to look
discussed.
at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Community relations report.
The report is included in your backup materials for your review.
Asset of the month.
Asset of the month, we'll review it quickly here. Positive view of personal future, optimism. Don't dismiss your children's dreams as naive or unrealistic. Encourage them to tell you what dreams in school. Encourage and support students in pursuing their dreams. In the community, help young people to set personal goals and inspire. Board goals. Included in your backup materials, board goals for the 18-19 school year. Last year with us undertaking the strategic planning, we didn't formally bring back goals. What we did, if you remember, is just kind of approve each grouping. But I think it's appropriate for us to break out some of those goals and some of those discussion points that were had in the strategic planning in December, and at least bring them back to the board for review at different points next year. This will also be done during our December time, but I think it's important to have these benchmarks. So I included 2 goals for curriculum and instruction, 2 in community relations, and then 2 in finance. This will be a first reading, so I'll be happy to take your feedback between now and the May meeting when I would bring those back for approval. So I'll be happy to discuss those at any point, make any adjustments that the board would find necessary. But these are at least things that we can kind of do a check box next year and kind of each month to say, okay, we accomplished that goal.
Very good. Next item is textbook adoption.
Okay, textbook adoption, in the backup material for your review. This would be Introduction to College Math. This is Joliet Junior College Math 098. This is for the new 4th-year math course, Introduction to Math, our transition math course, in conjunction with JJC's math course. Students who successfully complete this course with a grade C or better will be eligible for 100-level math courses then at JJC. So we would need to purchase that textbook. This is just kind of a first reading. We'll put it on display and then bring it back for. Tim's got it right there. Can you take that home?
Is this then, they don't have to take the compass test?
Go ahead.
As long as they pass the course with the C or better.
They don't have to take the
They
compass.
don't have to do any remedial classes, they can move right in. And there's significant numbers of kids, maybe 15%, that have to take a class before they can take a real JUCO class. This eliminates it.
50-something% of students have to take an 090 level class in math.
Yeah, and we can take care of that for them with the class.
Good.
Thank you. Legislative report.
Nothing new to report at this time.
Superintendent district report.
Same thing. I knew we had plenty on the agenda.
We appreciate that. Yeah. And then we have other district business. We have in front of you other business. Oh, this was the honors. That's right. So we had some, I think most of the board is aware of the recommendations regarding how honors, and honors recognition. And we're talking about the summa cum laude, magna cum laude, and the cum laude recognition. And as people were going through senior recognition, there were some things brought up. And this was originally, I think, an advisory 210 recommendation that came forward. And it was determined that there was a gap in some of the math problem there. So you have in front of you a recommendation that would modify the recognition levels as described there. And if you were so inclined to move to modify those recommendations, they could be put in place for this year's recognition at graduation. Please.
I was under the assumption that all the boards and all the things were ordered and.
Of course, we ordered. We could do the.
Okay.
We had not printed the programs yet, so we could do the program. What this would do? Currently, essentially we are acknowledging the top 33%. If we moved the weighted GPA of 4 to 4.5 and we included them in the cum laude, that would put us at the top 37%. There was some discussion of weighted 3.5. Well, that's the top 49%, and then we're essentially at half. So in discussions with, quite a few discussions with administration, by moving that number, or including the 4.0 to 4.5 weighted student, that would be an additional 62 students, or 4%, and would put us at the top 37% we recognized. We went ahead and ran that information for next year. It would be an additional, last year it would have been an additional 2%, or 39 students. The administration would be comfortable with moving ahead and recognizing those students with cum laude of 4.0 to 4.5 weighted, but we would also like then for District 210 advisory next fall to take a look at all of this, do another comparison analysis. As you recall, this came as a result of us moving away from the balance south, and instead of recognizing the top 10 students, to recognizing about the top 30% in each grade level. To acknowledge a much more broader perspective. But we can move forward and acknowledge those additional 62 students. No matter where that line is drawn, there's going to be kids on just the other side of that line. And that's, so we do, but I would say a 4.0 weighted is still an accomplishment, it's still a significant accomplishment.
I guess the problem is we move that line just a little bit, and there's that one kid or two or three that are just over it, and we're like, oh, okay, next year you can come in too, and now pretty soon every kid's got a cord on it. It's kind of like a participation trophy syndrome. Everybody's a winner.
Throughout the area.
Well, and that's what, if you look and see, this study was 3 years ago.
Okay.
So typical in the area is anywhere from your top 10 to top 30% is what they saw at that time when they did this study. And that's why I think we would need another look, but different districts do it different ways. For us, we were a little late to the game in ruling out balance south and then ruling out the top 10. But when the study was conducted, top 30% was typical what districts were seeing. But that, once again, that was 3 years ago.
Is that what's being used now still by most?
That I don't know. We didn't look at it this year. We didn't.
I don't know about other districts.
There's also a mathematical problem in there. That by taking the weighted and cutting it off at 4.5, there is a little bit of a mathematical anomaly. And it took my 3-language son to explain to me over the phone, and I still didn't get it until he finally took a picture of what he was writing and sent it to me, that you create a gap that it probably was addressed or maybe wasn't. So to answer your question here, I say continuous improvement is always part of a process. And so when you find a mathematical gap, you should probably close it, because you're you're penalizing those individuals for taking weighted classes that to your point, are probably more difficult.
Yeah.
So then, it's not opening up to everybody gets a ribbon kind of deal, but it is basically saying that if there's a mathematical gap, there's a mathematical gap.
So you're saying go allow the 4.0 to 4.5?
The 4.0 is a cum laude recognition for weighted. And then obviously still the unweighted for 3.5 is to recognize that as well.
Yeah, we would leave everything in place. We would simply add weighted 4.0 to 4.5 into the cum laude category, which would be 62 students district-wide.
Right. Right.
Which would still put us at the top 37%. I don't know that we can order the cords. We'll see what we can do, but we know we haven't printed the programs yet. We know who the 62 students are.
I just want to just be careful we're not.
I understand.
Start moving.
And there is that gap.
That was my argument when we first came on this.
Yeah. Yeah, there is that gap. There is, and we've gone in administrative discussions round and round and round, and ultimately I said, Tim, what do you think we should do?
We looked individually at these kids, and one perfect example is a kid who Has all honors classes, has 1C in high school, has a 31 ACT, but her weighted was a 4.41. And the parents' argument, and I think they're right, is a student who has taken no college prep classes and gotten a 3.5, we do want to honor those kids, but then to not honor the kid with the great ACT and the over a 4 point, that's, with what we expect out of kids here, I thought that was very fair. For those 62 kids, that's what they look like. They didn't barely make it. These are,
See, when you say it like that.
Yeah,
he did a better job. I know it's not.
Well done, Tim.
Now I seem like the bad guy.
Okay.
No,
Thanks.
Thanks, good discussion.
Okay, so the recommendation would be to move forward with this, and since we're on the dawn of graduation, to Scott's point, they will be recognized through the programs, and so that everybody attending will see the extra mark next to the name, and then if you can create an accommodation for the course, that can be done, but, and then take them back to the 210 advisory, looked over the whole process and see where we're at. But again, part of my challenge was mathematically, Tim just pointed it out.
Yeah.
And my son reminds me of it every time he tells me.
I couldn't conceptualize it until I heard it.
I'll put you on the phone next time without.
Yeah.
All right, and then what do we have next? Any correspondence? All right, if not, she gave it to me.
It's under.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session. Is that right on it? There it is. Shouldn't be there. All right. Entertain a motion to go into closed session for the following reasons: the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees, collective negotiation, established sale or lease price of real estate, student disciplinary cases, and litigation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Will we have